Chibaku. Sand, sand, more sand. He wondered whether or not this desert had an end. The puppeteer continued walking, economizing his chakra. I can pump you up, the Kyuubi suggested. No, he answered with his truthful voice. I will walk. It helps me think. The fox stayed silent an instant, as its vessel found a rock with indications on the way to follow. West, Suna, East, Konoha. How simple. You sound bitter. What is the matter? Nothing, he replied. It's just I feel lost on the road of life. Both metaphorically and literally. Fucking sand. What Deidara said troubles you, doesn't it? No, he lied, before deciding to be honest. Alright, yes. It shook me how close I am to Deidara's gang. And not in a good way. The puppeteer cursed. The only real difference is the side we're fighting for. I'm just as bad as they are. You never cared before, the Kyuubi pointed out. Why do you think about it now? Because, I can't explain, probably the result of spending too much time with moral absolutists. The puppeteer shook his head. My art, Sasori's art, meaningless. Is my dream impossible to achieve? I am lost. The Biju fell briefly silent. You're not Uzumaki Naruto. Of course I am Furball. No you aren't. Chibaku winced at the raging tone. The Naruto Uzumaki I was forced inside never gave up. He didn't let a psychopath's words get under his skin. Well, metallic armor, the point is, who cares if your dream is impossible? It is still beautiful enough to fight for. Even if you fail, your efforts will inspire others, so one day, someone can succeed. Deidara's group is a bunch of nihilists. They don't believe in anything, so they try to drag others to their level, but Naruto Uzumaki is better than that. How can you be this hollow? You're right, the puppeteer realized, with renewed confidence. I'm such an idiot. Who cares if I fail? At least I will do my best to fulfill my dream, and be at peace with myself. That's the spirit. The creature snorted. But don't think I said that to cheer you up. I did it so you would be motivated when we fight them again. Right, thanks anyway. Chibaku turned back. Let's lay waste to them. I'll let you take over for once. When he arrived, they were all gone. The relay and the Zeppelin stood silent. Deidara's base was empty, its occupants having vanished without a trace. The puppeteer observed his surroundings, trying to find any hint of what happened. Did they all turn invisible? Chibaku deadpanned. My sensors should have noticed them. They left the relay unguarded, the Kyuubi noted. The one reason I can see is, they're starting a big operation and they need everyone they have to carry it out. Deidara, I didn't understand why he let me go, now I do. The puppeteer clenched his fists. He was gunning for something, and he didn't want me nearby. Suddenly, Kyuubi had a revelation. Kakuzu is a poisoned bait. As the puppeteer inwardly frowned, the Biju elaborated. Boy, think a little. Why leave a prisoner with valuable info on your operations and no tactical value alive? Why leave only 2 guards with him? Don't you find it convenient these 2 were occupied at a trivial game while they knew we would come sooner or later? They wanted us to pick Kakuzu. Chibaku started panicking. It was all a trap. Haku. It happened with a bang. Kubaiko, Kakuzu, Haku and Karasu were brought before Danzo and his Anbu squad for one last meeting. The old man was obviously troubled by something and had decided to work together with a group of wanderers, proposing them to collaborate against Deidara in exchange for their freedom. Tobarama had replied he was in no position to negotiate, as he could kill everyone in the room on his own and walk out. Then the Anbu told them they noticed strange seals glowing on Kakuzu's back, much to the Taki Nin's surprise. Suddenly the Hokage tower exploded. Once more, Haku's reflexes saved her life, as she turned into water to survive. Reforming in the middle of ruins, the Snow Woman found herself being helped to stand up by Kakuzu and Tobarama. The 3 ninja glanced around at the devastation. Many hadn't survived the explosion. They were either not fast enough, powerful enough, or both. Karasu and the Dragon Anbu had immediately been tackled and thrown aside by the 2 insane copies of Naruto Uzumaki. Men wearing red clothes scattered into the streets, throwing bombs at the surrounding buildings. And in the center of the chaos, glancing down at a surprised Danzo, a blonde man stood proudly atop the ruins. Boys and girls, time to make this story end, Deidara grinned wickedly, with a bang. Kakuzu immediately understood what had happened. You put transportation seals on me while I was sleeping. Hell yes, he smirked. I guess they would pick you up when they learned you had important information, so that Uzumaki lady gracefully crafted the seals for me. When a spy of mine told me you had been brought to Konoha, I realized I could kill 2 ninjas with 1 shuriken. Sorry for using you as a pawn, yet you deserved it for insulting my art. Deidara absent-mindedly dodged a bullet of water projected by Kakuzu. I love it when people gloat, the tacky nin whispered, makes them easier targets. Geez, you're trigger happy, aren't you? Deidara asked, glancing at the world wanderers next. Let's be reasonable. Why can't we be friends? Because you are a mass-murdering homicidal maniac, Kubaiko replied without missing a beat. Kakuzu, back me up. Danzo, let's make a truce until he's dealt with. With joy, the bounty hunter whispered. I will support you, Haku whispered. Sigh, I guess it will be a nice opportunity to show why I'm nicknamed Akai Kazan, the Red Volcano, Deidara noted, raising his hands. Pressure increased around him, and his killing intent turned nearly unbearable. Much to everyone's amazement, red chakra surrounded the mad bomber, ripping his skin apart. Have you heard of the Gold and Silver Brothers? Deidara's skin was covered with a mix of blood and magma, increasing his size and bulk. His fingers turned into claws, his eyes into 2 pits of fire, his mouth into shining hellfire. 3 long, simian tails of chakra materialized out of his back, and the man's mere presence increased the heat around him. When the Yonbi kicked my ass, it did more than open my mind. It made me living art. The pseudo-Jinchuriki roared savagely. Prepare to vanish, for my art is an explosion. Kazama, the fallen hero. When Kazama opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was Naruto. Sensei, are you alright? No. His head hurt, and his mind was in ruin. He was in a bed, back to the wooden mansion. I feel cold. The blonde girl glared at Madara. What did you do to him? For once, nothing. I found him in this state. The Uchiha crossed his arms. Go bring Konan. She has information to share with him. The little lady was about to refuse, but Kazama was faster. Do as he says. Naruto locked eyes with her mentor, before obeying. Madara glanced at his student. What happened? I learned something I wasn't mean to learn. His voice was low and serene. As if he had lost all will, all warmth. How long was I out? A long time. It's past midnight. Kazama winced. Konan finished early. And Sasuke didn't take the truth well. As he spoke, both the paper woman and Naruto's former rival entered the bedroom, followed closely by Naruto. Sasuke seemed downright heartbroken, while Konan, the second she noticed Kazama, she hugged him. I didn't know, she whispered to his ear. 12 years alone and hated in that place. It was nothing, Kazama lied through his teeth, breaking off the embrace. What happened while I was out? Izanami's operation went fine, but she will need a lot of rest, Naruto said. I managed to beat my darkness at the Falls of Truth, and Danzo. Kazama focused on Konan. Speak, tell me the whole truth. Madara Uchiha, the winner. Madara Uchiha had no idea why, or how, but he knew he would win today. It was an intuition. A gut feeling. He had the premonition his efforts in trying to convince Kazama to see his point of view would pay off within the next 10 minutes if not hour. Months of works would achieve the desired result. Now, all Tsukiyomi had to do was to wait in silence, and enjoy the moment. Just as planned. Go ahead, Kazama told the worried Konan. I'm all ears. You won't like what I am about to say. Konan interlaced her fingers. Maybe is it. I waited too long to settle on this. Kazama clenched his fists. Go on. She inhaled sharply before letting it out slowly and reluctantly. Let's start with the very beginning, the Kyuubi's rampage. The authorities of the village were worried and Uchiha was behind the event. Kazama briefly glared at Madara, who shrugged. As a result, they started investigating and in turn isolating the Uchiha clan. As you can guess, they did not appreciate it and attempted to rally other clans to their cause. While a few, like the Hyuga, supported their plea, it was not enough to alleviate the pressure. Danzo Shimura in particular, the man in charge of Konoha's intelligence, was adamant the Uchiha had to be kept under heavy scrutiny. After a point, the clan head Fugaku Uchiha became convinced there would be a purge sooner or later, and planned a coup in a last-ditch attempt to prevent this. Sasuke clenched his fists. My brother Itachi was ordered to exterminate his entire clan, with his payment being my safety. He ground his teeth. He lied for years, and he let me kill him. This little information, Madara was aware of. He had intended to inform Sasuke of it to turn him against Konoha at a point after Itachi died of his illness, giving the ancient Uchiha a powerful weapon against the Leaf. Of course, Orochimaru had ruined this plan when he caused the Kyuubi's disappearance, and Tsukiyomi missed the opportunity. After this is when the Inner Council was created, or at least, the incarnation Madara revealed to you the existence of. Conan bit her lower lip. It is difficult to say how, but the clan heads learned about the real circumstances of the massacre and became afraid. If the Hokage could exterminate one entire clan, what prevented him from doing it again? Kazama made her a sign to carry on. They were afraid, and banded together to serve as a counterpower to the Hokage's influence. This is where you enter the picture again. As Sarutobi was the closest person to you, the clan heads started to worry that you were being groomed as a weapon to be used against them. As a result, they attempted to limit your progress as much as possible by threatening both Sarutobi and later Tsunade with civil war should they not comply to their demands. They wanted you to receive the minimal training possible, so while your Biju could still serve as a war deterrent, you wouldn't be able to exploit its power as a rational shinobi. The Hokage wouldn't be able to use you safely against them without endangering the entire city. So they kept me isolated, not out of not hatred, but unfounded fear of the Hokage. That's it. The blonde asked softly, betraying a hint of seething anger. Yes, the clans and their allies mutually agreed to keep interactions with you to a bare minimum, so no one could train and groom you as a clansman and potential weapon to take over the Hidden Leaf. Since the Yondaime's seal was powerful enough not to break, they did not expect retaliations from you. The resentment in the populace as a whole did the rest. Jiraiya, Sai, Kazama whispered coldly, tell me about them. Conan held her breath for a few moments before continuing. Jiraiya and Tsunade did not wish to start a political arm wrestle with the Inner Council, and as such pretended to go along with them until the organization could be dissolved peacefully. Jiraiya pretended to teach you only the strict necessities. Shinobi basics and some techniques, but no apparent real style or anything to benefit you outside of combat. However, Danzo discovered he was secretly teaching you the basics of the sage mode behind everyone's back. Obviously, he intended for you to master it once the Inner Council dealt with, and hoped the Kyuubi would allow you to survive everything else. After a time, Danzo had enough of pretending to be ignorant and decided to prepare a coup to regenerate Konoha. Upon learning you were sent to meet Sasori's spy in Orochimaru's camp, he added his own mole in your team and made a deal with the snake. Sai would help him subdue you so Danzo could extract the Kyuubi and seal it inside one of his followers. In exchange, Orochimaru would have been left alone once Danzo made Hokage. He never intended to honor the deal, of course. When Kazama stayed silent, Naruto paled briefly. Sensei, you're telling me that my suffering, that everything they did to me, the Amekage clenched his jaw, locking eyes with the paper woman, was nothing more than a collateral damage in a grander scheme. Conan did not answer. Kazama snapped like a string drawn too tight, then shattered like glass. It wasn't obvious at first. Subtle hints in his facial expressions, a gaze getting colder, fingers twitching uncontrollably. Then a brief, compulsive smile widened on his face, before being replaced by utter, absolute killing intent. It was as if the boy had reached enlightenment. I'm going to burn them all. This was the one sentence the blonde uttered, with perfect serenity, before vanishing, space twisting around him. Naruto. Sasuke shouted too late. Where did he go? Conan asked, sounding genuinely worried. Where he should go, Madara whispered, vanishing as well. I've been waiting for this for a long, long time. The sweetest fruit took the longest to fall, but the Uchiha had it inside his palm at last. Naruto. Shit. Was the word Yugito uttered, upon being told what happened. Where did they go? To Konoha, Sasuke guessed. I've an idea what he's about to do, and this is not going to end well. The Nibi's vessel frowned. Dark Wolf, go take Izanami to someplace safe and kill Zetsu if he resists, she ordered, before moving to exit the mansion. The rest of you, we're going after those two. How? Naruto asked. They're in another country. She can turn into the two tails, Conan can fly, Sasuke noted, and I have flying summons. Maybe we can reach the leaf before. The group stopped outside. 6 men with orange hair and Rinnegan for eyes were waiting around the house. Their skin was pale and covered with piercings. Each of them was wearing black robes with red clouds on them. You aren't going anywhere, Kyubi, the six spoke with the same voice, we are pain. Accept judgment. Oh hell, not now, Naruto thought, as one of the six joined his hands and unleashed a very familiar technique. When the Shinra Tensei activated, blasting both the artificial house and the entire forest surrounding them, the group was shielded by a giant blue cat. Sasuke, take Naruto with you and get Kazama back before he does something stupid, Yugito ordered, the rest of us will take care of Pain. But he has the Rinnegan. Naruto shouted, Mei and Konan already engaging the paths of Pain in battle, you can't beat him with so little manpower. That's our problem, and Kazama going insane would have disastrous consequences, Yugito shouted. Now go. He's after you, so get the hell out of my firing range. Understood, Sasuke whispered, summoning a giant hawk and grabbing Naruto against her will. The two jumped on the bird, who flew in the sky faster than the quickest wind. As Naruto sent one last glance to the island, she had the feeling she wouldn't see some of her friends again. Sakura. I'm telling you, Sakura repeated, it was Naruto. The gathered shinobi collectively frowned. Upon returning to the leaf, Sakura's group had been summoned by the entire high command of Konoha, Jiraiya, Sarutobi's teammates, the heads of the clans, and the main Junin of the village. The rest of the Konoha 12 had been invited as well. Are you certain he's behind Danzo's disappearance? Shikaku Nara asked. We have received a message from the Cage Summit indicating he failed to show up. He all but said he had Danzo killed, Neji informed them. He also said something strange. The inner council should watch their backs, were his own words. Sakura couldn't miss the worried glances a few members of the assembly exchanged. Kakashi, however, was utterly overjoyed. Is he wounded? Is he alright? He changed, sensei, Sakura admitted. Physically speaking, he's looking much older than last time we met. Mentally, he's bitter, Neji said in her place. Naruto used to be full of warmth and energy. The man we met could have been made of ice and it wouldn't have made a difference. He also changed his name, Ino pointed out. And while he always had the worst fashion sense in the world, seeing him wearing that scary armor was disturbing. After he left Akamaru and I noticed multiple scents matching his own, Kiba shrugged. He probably used shadow clones so we couldn't track him down, so we abandoned the search and returned home. It doesn't seem like he's going to come back, at least on his own, Jiraiya whispered. Soon, Shibi, you will put your best trackers on the case. Since he reappeared, we might be able to locate him. He has space-time ninjutsu, Shikaku Nara pointed out. Locating him is useless if he can teleport to the other side of the country anytime. He obviously does not wish to come back, Sum added. Maybe we should leave him alone. He abandoned the village in its time of need, Mitokado pointed out. For a shinobi, this is unacceptable. We need him back in order to extract. Jiraiya glared at him venomously. It's your actions which lead to this situation, the Sannin hissed. I will have him back, but you won't touch a hair of his head. I'm done tolerating your actions. You do not have the authority necessary, Udatain pointed out. With Tsunade and Danzo incapacitated and as the daimyo's first choice as Hokage, I will act as the temporary Rokudaime, the Toad Sage replied. The rest of the assembly was divided over this. Go, Hiashi told the Konoha 12, the high command of Konoha must discuss in peace. The group of teens reluctantly obeyed, exiting the Hokage's HQ. Sakura briefly glanced at the sky. The new moon resulted in stars being the only source of light, for they shined briefly tonight. The young woman briefly wondered if Naruto was glancing at them too, wherever he was. Do you think Naruto would truly come back? Hinata asked Neji, her voice shaking with naive hope. Highly unlikely, the other Hyuga replied bluntly. Konoha probably won't forgive him for abandoning the village for so long and refusing to return. He might be executed as a missing nin. Or we could find him first, and convince our parents to ignore his defection, Shikamaru pointed out. They were willing to get Sasuke back without much problems, since he never took arms against the Leaf. Their reluctance to do the same with Naruto, who risked his life more than once for the village, troubles me. You think they're hiding something? Ino guessed. Naruto's sudden transformation into a bitter deserter strikes me as out of character, Neji pointed out. His words were confusing as well. He said he traveled a lot, yet as far as our sensors were concerned he vanished from this side of the planet. When he comes back, it's with an unknown space-time ninjutsu, Shikamaru pointed out. No, I believe Konoha's high command is hiding something. Did you see how they reacted to the mention of this, inner council? Too many pieces of the puzzle of Hades, Shino pointed out. We should focus on Naruto first. He's the only one with answers. Maybe he was hiding in the land of summons. Choji suggested. Possible, Sakura replied, although Jiraiya had been clueless about Naruto's location for months. I'll have to ask Katsuyu. After I see Tsunade-sama. The others nodded, and Sakura left them to their own devices, reaching Konoha's hospital. Tsunade's room was protected by two Anbu, who allowed her enter after checking her out. The Sannin was on a respirator and under heavy medical care. Sitting next to her teacher's bed, Sakura began talking. We found Naruto, she explained, fairly aware the older woman probably couldn't listen. He's fine, I guess. Different but fine. Sakura lowered her eyes. After all this time, he was alive, somewhere. But, I doubt he'll come back. I've seen it in his eyes. The Naruto we knew and loved, he's gone. He has become someone else. She sighed sadly. I guess I can't cut my hair again yet. I told myself I would let them grow until Naruto returned, to keep reminding myself not to give up. The medic glanced at Tsunade's face. What would you do in my place, sensei? Tsunade did not answer. Deciding to check out Tenten's theory, Sakura prepared to summon a fragment of Katsuyu when a horrifically loud noise interrupted her. Recognizing as an explosion, she briefly wondered if the town was under attack. It took Sakura just a brief glance through the windows to understand what was happening. Armored soldiers everywhere. Hundreds of them. They were unleashing fiery devastation upon the Leaf. A few were standing atop the houses, launching fireballs toward the compounds of the clans. Others were roaming the street, fighting Konoha in attempting to hinder their progress. Black fire started spreading, consuming entire streets. Konoha was being invaded. Impossible, Sakura whispered, praying she was hallucinating. It can't be. The door of Tsunade's hospital room opened, and Sakura hurriedly glanced in its direction. Stepping over the roasted, cooked corpses of the Anbu guards, a masked man glanced at the pink-haired teen, a lone Sharingan being the only part of his body visible. Pink hair, pretty face, you must be Sakura Haruno, the man began, his voice as soft as silk, a pleasure to meet you. He glanced at the comatose Tsunade. She has her grandfather's face, don't you think? The killer whispered, too bad she hasn't woken up for this performance. I was looking forward to immortalizing her despair with my Sharingan. Guessing the man's intentions, Sakura shielded the Sannin with her very body. Who are you? Uchiha Madara, rightful lord of the Uchiha clan, he replied, Sakura having trouble believing him. I am Naruto's teacher, by the way, so I guess you should be a little more respectful. The bold claim caused Sakura's eyes to widen. Teacher. She assembled the pieces of the puzzle. You kidnapped Naruto. I did no such a thing, although it was my intention at one point. The masked man cracked his neck. I did convince him to adopt a battle plan instead of rampaging aimlessly, however, and I did start the Black Inferno in the old Senju compound. It was an old reflex. I'm somewhat surprised I still had it, truth be told. What's happening? Sakura asked, her skin as white as chalk. What are you doing? We are invading Konoha. Obviously, he explained flatly. Naruto's shadow clones were teleported into the middle of the Leaf's most vital elements of its infrastructure. The men in charge of the barrier were taken care of first so they wouldn't inform anyone. Then the clones proceeded to destroy the communications and assassinate most officers. Now, all we have left to do is destroy the clans, settlements, and this city will be unable to organize a coherent defense. Then we'll keep burning it until there is nothing left to burn. But why? Sakura's heart beat faster. Naruto couldn't possibly do this. Because I planned for it to happen, Madara explained flatly. Naruto hates the Leaf, more than you can possibly imagine, for perfectly legitimate reasons that everyone here has long since decided to ignore, which was convenient for me. For months this hate has built up, growing stronger and stronger as he learned more and more of the injustices Konoha has committed against him. But he wanted to be a hero, and heroes don't destroy entire cities, at first. I simply waited for the breaking point, and Naruto crossed it at last just recently. Now, he will not stop until this town is wiped off of the face of the earth. He coughed upon glancing at Tsunade. As much as this little moment of weakness shames me, I came here to gloat to this woman's face. How can't I? The leaf will be destroyed by what could have been its greatest protector. I hope you appreciate the poetic irony. Sakura blanched deathly, and clenched her fists. You're the responsible for all of this. No, I simply prepared the set and your former teammate happily trashed it. The man sighed. Now, since Tsunade is sleeping, I guess all that remains for me here is to watch the fireworks, he finished before vanishing. Sakura glanced one last time at her comatose teacher, and rushed outside. Jiraiya the Sannin. Before his world went to hell, Jiraiya had been sitting behind the Hokage desk, pondering about his many failures. The first, original one, was to fail as a teacher. He should have known better than leave 3 kids alone in a war-torn country, especially one with the Rinnegan. When pain destroyed Suna and the survivors described Akatsuki's leader, it didn't take long for Jiraiya to guess which of his students was destined to destroy the world. He had failed Nagato and Yahiko, no, the entire world. The second mistake, just as bad, was to fail as a friend. He should have been a better teammate to Orochimaru, helped him with his problems, instead of antagonizing them. Jiraiya truly believed he could have avoided the snake's descent into madness, had he acted more maturely at the time. The third mistake, was failing as a godfather. And this one was catching up to him fast. Sighing, Jiraiya promised himself he would make up for this one. He had lacked strength once, but this was over. He would be a good Rokudaime until Tsunade was awake, he would find his godson, and he would protect him from anyone. Biting his finger, Jiraiya decided to summon the Toad Elder Fukasaku, in order for advices how to locate Naruto. He slammed his hands on the Hokage's desk, and the toad materialized in a puff of smoke. Jiraiya, finally. Fukasaku seemed incredibly disturbed. I thought you would never summon us. What? Listen. The great sage has been murdered. The news shocked Jiraiya, and the elder's next words even more so. Your student appeared out of nowhere and roasted him alive on the spot with a fire technique before vanishing with that masked man as promptly as he came. What's the meaning of this? Could Nagato? Jiraiya's eyes snapped open, as he heard explosions through the window. Turning to face his city, he found it ablaze. The hell? Noises of struggle came from beyond the office's door, causing Jiraiya to face them. The sounds died off, which sent a lot of bad messages to the sage. Then the Kusanagi broke past the doors and impaled the Sannin through the stomach, drawing blood and piercing the window to his back. An armored man kicked the doors open, oozing with killing intent. Jiraiya. Fukasaku joined his hands, preparing a jutsu. Sage art. The attacker absent-mindedly threw a kunai at the summoned skull with his free hand, killing the toad on the spot. He didn't even waste a glance, focusing entirely on Jiraiya. Don't worry, I'm not going to kill you, the armored man said with the most serene, peaceful voice imaginable, before twisting the extended kusanagi, causing Jiraiya to wince in pain. I'm going to nail you to the Yondaime's face on the mountain, so you two can properly watch your beloved Konoha die. And Naruto. Jiraiya frowned, recognizing Sakura's description. Why? You dare ask why? There was no anger in the tone, only cold resolution. The Uchiha, the branch of the Hyuga, the smaller nations, myself, the leaf thrives on misery and injustices. It is a corrupt and wicked place. I will burn it down, turn it into a wasteland, and salt the ground so it can never nurture life again. Fitting. Its citizens step on us, ruin our lives, and they don't even dare to acknowledge our losses. It is only natural for them to lose everything. A civilization which uses its people as pawns does not deserve to exist. The Kusanagi retracted, allowing Jiraiya to regain his footing. Now, it is time for me to prove, once and for all, I have surpassed you, and all who hold me back. He raised his hands. On your knees. I want to see you crawl at my feet and beg for your life. I refuse. A blast of wind propelled the Sannin through the windows. Omake. The real reason Kazama went crazy. Hey, Naruto, since you banged my mom, I decided to take my revenge. Sasuke joined his fingers. I'm going to beat you at your own game. How? You're going to marry the Dark Wolf. Kazama snorted, briefly wondering what kind of technique the Uchiha would use. Harem no Jutsu. Sasuke shouted, causing 100 copies of him and Kushina to materialize in smoke. Kazama blanched upon realizing they were all naked. Make out paradise. Then the illusory Sasuke started making out with the fake Kushina. Then, they went straight to the nasty. Let's make 100 Uchiha babies. The clones boasted. And that's the real reason Kazama lost his sanity. Omake too. The other reason Kazama went crazy. As Kazama's mind eroded in that single instant of viewing existence through the eyes of a god, it recognized the sections of reality that possessed instances of himself. And in those instances he saw himself and Sasuke, and sometimes Kakashi or Sai or some other male, and they were. Yeah, let's see how deep you can put your Chidori blade. I'm gonna vibrate you, you'll see. And Kazama screamed in horror. Character stats. Deidara Akai Kazan. Ninjutsu, S rank. Taijutsu, D rank. Genjutsu, D rank. Armed combat, S rank. Defensive techniques, D rank. Battle strategy, A rank. Special skill, Pseudo Yonbi Jinchuriki, S rank. Special skill, Magma Release, S rank. Chapter 46. He Who Fights Monsters. Fires, fires, everywhere. His home, his life, was ablaze. Homura Mitokado could only witness the devastation from atop the building he had been working in just a few minutes ago, and despair. His entire city was burning, flames spreading through the wooden buildings and the empty streets. His home, his world, was dying before his very eyes. Report. The defense of the city is completely unorganized and our troops are being pushed back or exterminated, the Anbu captain kneeling in between him and the squads of lesser-ranked shinobi replied. Our chain of command has been decimated and our attackers quickly adapt to everything we can throw at them without utilizing any form of physical or verbal communication. Shadow clones, Homura realized. The destruction of a clone meant all its copies gained its memories, allowing them to react to any new development with ease and transfer intel at high speed. There was only one person with enough chakra to field an entire army of them and had the motivation to launch a one-man invasion of the Leaf. And the damage. We cannot put out the fires, the Anbu stated bluntly. The city is primarily made of wood, and even with the precautions we had set up in case of large fires, the inferno is spreading faster than water jutsu can extinguish it. The shadow clones interrupt all our efforts to do so, and the black fire spreading from the old Senju compound somehow resists all efforts to extinguish it. We cannot both fight the invasion force and focus on saving the population. At this rate, the city will burn. Homura closed his eyes. How did things reach this point? The city is lost, he stated grimly. Konoha is lost. It was one thing to say it, but it was another thing entirely to admit it. The city, the civilization they all strived to protect and cherish, the home they built over decades, would be gone soon. And if nothing was done, its citizens would follow Konoha to the grave. Start Operation Broken Tree, Homura declared. Order all Junin to evacuate the population of the city and abandon it. The Anbu will focus on stopping the invasion force inside the village and prevent it from giving chase. Sir, they will gladly fight to protect the Leaf, the Anbu pointed out. If the population flees, do you understand things will never be the same? I know. This crushing defeat would forever remains in memories, a humiliation so powerful, so tainting, it would haunt the survivors for decades to come. The ninja world would never forget this day, the day the mighty Leaf was destroyed. Even if the buildings were rebuilt, even if they recreated Konoha somewhere else, they would never fully recover. We might be able to prevail, but our losses would be too great. We need to survive the fire and regroup elsewhere. Buildings can be rebuilt, people can't. The Anbu nodded sadly, before glancing at the skies. They're coming. For me, Homura agreed, noticing a trio of shadow clones projecting fire from their boots and achieving a primitive form of flight. Go now. I will face them. The Anbu paused briefly. It was an honor to serve you, Elder Sama, he said, before fleeing. Homura took his breath and waited calmly as the three shadow clones landed around him. I see you decided to face me head-on, one of them spoke with a derisive tone. You're either dumber than I thought, or suicidal. I won't run from you, Homura replied calmly, or from what I've done. Ah, so you guessed who I am and why I'm here, the shadow clone whispered. You know, for months, when I faced progressively greater dangers without end, more than once I thought about giving up. Do you know what gave me willpower and purpose? He cracked his fingers. How I was going to make your kind pay. I did what I did for the good of the Leaf. Homura defended himself, the Kyuubi had to be contained. It caused the armored madman to stop moving. Kyuubi. He repeated. That's all I am to you, right? The nine-tailed fox. No matter if I got rid of it, I will never escape its shadow. Slightly surprised by the admission, Homura quickly dismissed it as the rambling of a madman. I understand your desire for revenge, although to be honest, I thought Sasuke would be my demise. I will not run from my punishment. But please, stop this madness. The citizens of this city do not deserve. I am the only judge here, Mitokado. The armored man rolled his shoulders. Konoha deserves to be destroyed. Its citizens must be punished. You must be terminated. Homura paled. I did. You did what you did for the good of the leaf, but what good does the leaf do? As long as it stands, atrocities will be justified in its name. The Uchiha massacre, the treatment of Jinchuriki, all of it can be tracked to the hidden villages. He snorted. I always thought there were one or more wicked people to blame for everything, when in truth, everyone is guilty to a degree. Konoha rejected me long before the inner council appeared, and as long as it exists, it will keep harming people. I won't suffer its presence any longer. He raised his eyes at the sky. I just received the memories of a clone killing Udatane by breaking her neck. The man's fingers twitched uncontrollably. If this is any consolation, what I will do to you shouldn't be any more painful than that. Uruka Yumino. When the world went to hell, the first thing Uruka did was to start helping civilians evacuate. As a teacher, he was well versed in this kind of exercises. Yet, this unexpected, mindless chaos brought back terrible memories. Although there was no tailed beast in sight, Uruka felt like living through the Kyuubi's attack once again. Uruka-sensei. Konohamaru shouted, joining his old teacher. You're alive. For now. The teacher replied, exchanging greetings with the kid. Where is Ebisu-san? I got separated from my team when the fireballs fell, Konohamaru replied. What do? We try saving as many lives as we can, Uruka replied, before blanching. An armored man walked out of the nearest street, his hands red with the blood of his latest victim. The invader glanced at the teacher with his black orbits, his eyes hidden behind a helmet. Konohamaru was the first to react, faster than Uruka himself. The name is Konohamaru. He boasted. Remember that. A Rasengan in hand, he attempted to smash the mysterious man by surprise. Unfortunately, the invader saw him coming, dodged, and exploited the genin's lack of momentum to grab his neck and put a kunai against his throat. Uruka would have been proud of Konohamaru's progress, if his life hadn't been in danger. Instead of gutting the kid, the armored man glanced down at the boy, who was sweating with fear. Konohamaru, he said, releasing the kid, I will never forget that name. It appears you have become a fine ninja in my absence. I regret having not taught you more. Konohamaru observed the man with genuine surprise. Boss. Suddenly, Uruka had a revelation. The thousands invaders with the same shape and equipment, the sudden attack right after he heard Naruto had been seen once more, impossible. Don't worry, Uruka-sensei, the man removed his helmet, confirming the teacher's fears, I'm not going to slaughter you like the rest of these degenerates. In fact, it's fortunate we met. You and Konohamaru are among the few people I do not want to die today. While Konohamaru was too shocked to utter a word, Uruka bit his lower lip. This is all about the Kyuubi, right? No, not only that. The shadow clone snorted. I was taught to respect the will of fire, I guess I took the fire part literally. You can call what I do a sermon. I am teaching Konohagakure the lesson it most deserves. But, boss, why? Konohamaru started crying, disappointment and horror overtaking his heart. Why? Because I've decided to. The shadow clone shrugged his shoulders. Out of respect for our old friendship, I will let you go unharmed. I wish you good hope with your new life, beyond Konoha. He slammed his hands together and dispelled. Farewell. As his former surrogate son vanished, Uruka watched Konohamaru. The kid was paralyzed, unable to process what happened. Konohamaru. This is an imposter, he muttered with a low voice, he's an imposter. Under mind control. This is not possible. Uruka inhaled sharply, his voice betrayed his sense of sadness. I feared something like that may happen, one day, and we can't do a thing about it any longer. He put his hand on the broken kid's shoulder. Let's go. Konohamaru's face broke his heart. Jiraiya the Sannin. Jiraiya, wake up. Jiraiya slowly opened his eyes, the blue toad underneath him exhaling in relief. Summoning it midair to prevent his death from crashing onto the ground had saved his life, but briefly knocked him out. Above them, a flying star descended, a man of metal propelled by streams of fire. The toad grabbed Jiraiya, tossed him to the ground, and leapt upward. His attempt at intercepting Naruto failed spectacularly when the blonde moved out of the amphibian's trajectory and set the beast ablaze with a fireball. Then he focused on Jiraiya, launching a volley of smaller fiery projectiles at his former mentor. Jiraiya, by this time, had regained his footing and dodged the projectiles. Unfortunately, the wound on his chest was bleeding profusely and prevented him from moving as fast as he wanted to. Naruto descended, his fist raised, and punched the Toad Sage's face, the speed increasing the power of the blow. Jiraiya's nose broke instantly and his body was propelled a few meters backwards. Managing to keep his momentum, the old man saw his former apprentice land gracefully, preparing his next jutsu. "Naruto, please, can't we talk this over?" The Sannin pleaded. "We just did. Time for talking is over." The armored ninja released a blast of air from his hands, focusing on the ground. The ashes covering it were blown toward Jiraiya like a deadly cloud, preventing him from seeing clearly. While the Sannin had his arms shield his eyes, blue chains of chakra seized his legs, spun him in the air, and threw him against the walls of a burning building. Quickly using one of the few water jutsu he knew to extinguish the flames spreading across his body, Jiraiya focused on ignoring the pain and got back to his feet. If Naruto had mastered Kushina's technique and so many new jutsu, then the Sannin might have to resort to lethal force to survive. But could he truly kill his student? "Naruto, stop!" The Sannin pleaded again, Naruto charging in his direction, a sword in hands. "What are you doing? Are you blind?" Naruto mocked him ruthlessly, attempting to impale the Sannin through the skull. "I'm destroying your home. This is your home too, Naruto." Jiraiya countered, dodging the strike. "What the hell happened? What happened to your dream of becoming Hokage?" "Hokage." The Toad Sage heard his former student's low-pitched, sardonic laugh. The Sannin suddenly realized the blade his student was wielding was Orochimaru's Kusanagi. "You have to be a fool to want to be Hokage." "My poor Jiraiya," Orochimaru smirked devilishly, swinging the Kusanagi. "Hokage, only a fool would try to become Hokage." The horrible sense of deja vu caused Jiraiya to grind his teeth and attack. With a hand seal, he had his hair grow and launch needles at his student's eyes. Naruto appeared genuinely taken aback by the change in strategy. He backed off, protected his eyes with his arms, and left an opening. "Odama Rasengan." Jiraiya growled, shaping a giant sphere in his hands. The blonde, too close to dodge or use a shunshin, extended the Kusanagi and used it as improvised shield. The blade stopped the attack, for a brief instant. The next, Jiraiya pushed forward more forcefully. The blast threw Naruto across the fiery ruins of Konohagakure, the Kusanagi having reduced the shockwave's impact. Chakra chains appeared out of thin air, anchored themselves to the ground and allowed the blonde to control his trajectory and land on his feet. The fallen hero glanced at his sword before sheathing it. "This sword, I killed Orochimaru for it." Naruto's chains swirled like vicious snakes, surrounding themselves with the buildings, flames and charging at Jiraiya. "You haven't lost your edge, Ero Sennin, or should I say, Godfather." Jiraiya's surprise and sudden realization of why his student had turned against him didn't prevent him from dodging the improvised whips. The chakra chains kept moving, destroying the spot where the Sannin was standing a second ago. "So you know. I know everything." Naruto finished a Kaden jutsu and unleashed a series of fire blasts at his old teacher. The Sannin found himself fleeing from both the flames and the chains, swings while trying to close the gap between him and his adversary. "From my legacy to your own dealings with the inner council, everything. Then you know I tried to do what was the best for you." Jiraiya replied. "I was in the middle of teaching you Sage Mode when." "Sage Mode. A skill I never mastered, never needed, never even explained. I killed Orochimaru without the Kyuubi nor the Sage Mode, you old lecher. I did it with my own skills. Not yours." Naruto took a few steps back and kept bombarding his former mentor. "Summoning brought me nothing, and the Rasengan is nothing compared to what so many other teachers taught me. I tried to teach you the best I could." Jiraiya countered, finally reaching his adversary. The teen's insistence on staying away implied his new fighting style revolved around spamming high-level techniques from distance, using the armor to compensate for his lack of physical prowess. "You were the chosen one. You were supposed to bring peace, not start fires everywhere." "Supposed." The tone changed. The previous calmness was replaced with boiling rage and venom. "Supposed." The chakra chains vanished and Naruto punched his teacher's ribcage by surprise, right where he had previously impaled the Sannin. The legendary ninja felt the pain racing through his body and more blood was spilled. All my life people controlled me like a puppet. I was never more than a weapon to defend the village, a tool for you fools to bring peace. For the first time in my life, I am truly free. Advantage for me, his wrath, Jiraiya thought, as he dodged the careless, unfocused blows. Advantage for him, his fucking armor. Hand to hand, it was obvious Naruto was average at best. He wasn't especially strong nor fast, and his rage left many openings for Jiraiya to exploit. But his armor prevented the Sannin's strikes from inflicting damage and the spikes made any blow risky at best. Had the sage been in better physical condition, he could have easily made a Rasengan to overcome these defenses, but his chest wound made creating one fast enough nearly impossible. I wasn't supposed to burn this city, right? I wasn't supposed to kill this Toad Elder either, right? For all his precognition he didn't see me coming. Naruto's inability to hit Jiraiya caused his fighting style to degenerate into a chaotic frenzy of punches and kicks. The Sannin briefly thought about exhausting his student, before deciding the boy's insane stamina would prevail, or his own wound would make him bleed to death. I wasn't aware how he looked until Madara brought me in front of his throne, but I killed that creature all the same. And he didn't see me coming. Do you know why? Because destiny is shit. Where is the salvation I was supposed to bring? It was difficult to make sense out of the mad rambling, but Jiraiya still listened. He exploited an opening and caused the teen to stumble, giving the elder man enough time to make and smash a Rasengan against the teen's helmet. The metal cracked, the blast causing the madman to stagger, his helmet falling on the ground. He has his father's hair, his mother's face, Jiraiya thought grimly, as his adversary regained control of himself, and Orochimaru's eyes. Yes, I thought you would be this world's best hope. The Sannin admitted. Because you were pure of heart, and because I trusted you. I did the best I could in a difficult situation, so why do you seek to destroy everything I hold dear? Naruto raised his fist, sneering in rage. Because you left me alone for 13 years. Jiraiya suddenly found himself paralyzed by guilt, unable to dodge the punch. The fist hit his face with the strength of a sledgehammer, breaking teeth. The Toad Sage saw a second attack coming, yet didn't find the strength to dodge it. You abandoned me like a dog. Naruto bitterly hissed, punching his former teacher repeatedly. And when you reappeared, you lied to me, manipulated, denied me the truth about my legacy, my identity. I was only a tool to you, a fool for you to mock. Just like what everyone else in this sham of a village had done in your stead. The Sannin was brought to his knees, and kicked in the chest. Even as the blonde kept hitting him, he didn't find the resolve to fight back. Can you imagine how painful it is? To realize your mentor, the person you trusted with your life, only stayed around you to fulfill a prophecy. That the friend you loved had left a child to fend for himself for years. That everything good in your world was a lie. That your loved ones were dishonest since the very beginning. That in the end, you were alone. The savage beating grew in violence and intensity. Jiraiya felt his bones break, his blood filing his mouth, and his vision blurring. Get up, Naruto ordered, his voice echoing with rage and bitterness. He raised his fist again. Get up and fight back. I'm superior, you hear me? I'm your tool no longer. I bested you, surpassed you, in spite of everyone's efforts to contain me. So get back up. I command you to get back up. You were never a tool. Naruto stopped his assault, and Jiraiya regained enough strength to speak. There wasn't a single moment where I didn't regret not adopting you. I chickened out. I admit it. When we met at the onsen, I wasn't impressed either, but later I began seeing your potential. I put my faith, my hopes in you, but I never found the strength to admit how I wronged you, and I never found the strength to do what I had to do. He tried to smile, his broken teeth most probably making him look ugly. So I deserve what's coming to me. I knew it would happen someday, but please know that I am truly sorry. For an instant, Naruto's deep blue eyes reflected his inner conflict. Sadness, bitterness, confusion, a friendship long dead, contradictory emotions were fighting for dominance. For a brief moment in time, it seemed the spark of forgiveness that had animated the boy for so long had returned. For a split second, Jiraiya's heart was engulfed with hope. Then they were crushed, as the spark of love was replaced with grim bitterness, then vengeful fury. You regret. He hissed, lowering his fist and punching Jiraiya's teeth with his metal glove. That's all. That's all. You think regrets can change anything? He punched his mentor again, Jiraiya too stunned to fight back. You regretted but you did nothing. He snapped. Nothing. You dare to say that you cared, but it's all a lie. A lie. At this point, Jiraiya's wounds were too great for his mind to handle. The horrifying reality was replaced with fond memories, the pain with happiness, the grim Konoha with the remnants of an era long gone, of a boy who smiled at him instead of an adult murdering him. Say, why did you choose me? Long ago, I taught the Yondaime Hokage, Jiraiya told his godson, and you have an uncanny resemblance to him. That's so cool. Naruto grinned. Yeah, Jiraiya smiled back, fine feathers make a fine bird. He had hoped such days would never end. Kazama Arashi. As his fists descended, raised, and then lowered again only to repeat the process. Kazama couldn't think of anything. He was lost in his bloodlust, in his rage. The blood of his sensei was red on his gauntlets, but it wasn't enough. He wouldn't stop until there was nothing left to crush. When he realized Jiraiya was dead already, he observed the corpse for a few seconds before rising up. His shadow loomed over the dead Sannin, the second to die by his hand. There was still a third to kill, but her death could wait. Kazama didn't know what he felt exactly in that instant. Sadness. Regret. Whatever this feeling was, it wasn't as satisfying as he expected it to be. Whatever. He had judgment to pass. As he walked away, his brain was overloaded with memories. The experience was painful, terrible, overwhelming. But, boss, why? Konohamaru started crying, disappointment and horror overtaking his heart. Why? Kazama's eyes widened. Stop it, Naruto, Shikamaru Nara warned, Choji Akamichi, Ino Yamanaka and Asuma Sarutobi protecting Shikaku Nara and Inoichi Yamanaka from their rightful punishment. Back off. Naruto, please stop this madness. Ino pleaded. You're destroying your own home. Team 10, I demand you step aside, Kazama ordered with an imperious tone. If you do, I'll let you get away. If you don't, then you'll join your parents in death. Naruto, Choji trailed off. Can you really be telling the truth? This must be some kind of genjutsu or... Why do you keep calling me Naruto? Kazama asked with a low voice. I told Sakura he was gone. Why do you keep clinging to a ghost? This is a sad thing to say, but I agree. Asuma frowned, completely serious and focused for once. Team 10, Naruto Uzumaki died in the line of duty. The man in front of you is an S-rank criminal. Stand your ground. Shut up, Kazama growled, holding his head. Where is he? Kazama hissed, as Neji and Hinata stood in the way of his shadow clones. Where is Hiashi? And Naruto-kun, Hinata trailed off. Please stop. Where is he? Kazama punctuated, before deciding to focus on Neji instead. Neji, the man enslaved your father and sent him to his death. All I want is his head on a platter. No one will blame you if you bring it. I've nothing against either of you. In fact, I will be happy to free the branch house from its servitude. Naruto-san, my relationship with Hiashi-sama may be difficult. Neji's face twisted into an expression of pure anger. But you have assaulted my home, sacked my city, and bombed my house. You lost the respect I had for you when you started hurting innocent people. Innocent. Kazama had troubles understanding. Neji, this city supported your enslavement for no reason. The Uchiha had no seal to protect their bloodline and yet they went farther than the Hyuga ever did. You can't tell me you will fight for this man, this land. I put my trust in Hinata-sama, as heir of the clan, to change the Hyuga's ways. And whatever its faults, the Leaf is the place I grew up inside. This is where my friends, my family, live. I will not let you defile it any longer. Kazama growled. You wish to be a slave. Very well. Then I will put you down like the dog that you see yourself as. Naruto-kun, in spite of the admiration I have for you, Hinata's eyes were filled with tears. I won't let you reach my father, prepare yourself. Shut up. Kazama shouted, as the images of his clones being defeated one by one overloaded his mind. Too many deaths, too many words in such a short span of time. It was painful. Over and over again he saw himself beaten, burned, crippled by ninjas proudly defending their home, their homeland. Stop talking. The flux of information stopped abruptly, and Kazama panted heavily. He glared at Konoha's outer wall, focused, and opened his palm. According to the chaotic, fragmented memories he had gathered, his primary targets had managed to escape the city. They could run, but they couldn't evade him forever. Marabito. Neji Hyuga. Outside Konoha's walls, in the forest south of the city, a group of ninja had stopped under dark trees to rest a little. They had lost many friends in their escape, and the survivors of Konoha had scattered through the woods, fleeing dispersed. Neji Hyuga examined the survivors he had managed to gather. Choji Akamichi, Ino Yamanaka, Hinata Hyuga, Tenten, Rock Lee, Shikamaru Nara, Shikaku Nara, Hiyashi Hyuga, and Inoichi Yamanaka had escaped outside the city, while the team's Junin teachers had returned to the city, trying to further help the evacuation. As he glanced at the smoke coming from the village, Hiyashi frowned. Hanabi, he whispered in horror. Kei Kurenai-sensei has taken her somewhere safe, father, Hinata tried to console him. Too bad my mother didn't have such luck, Shikamaru whispered coldly, before glaring at his father. So, I want your explanations. You obviously know something about this. The older Nara glanced at his former city with sadness. We fucked up. Big time. So this situation is your fault. Neji glared at the adults of the group. What happened? What did you do? We did what was necessary, Inoichi whispered, his will crushed. His wife had been murdered by a shadow clone trying to reach her husband when she refused to step aside. But, how could it end like this? We tried to stop this from possibly happening. Neji would have pushed the interrogation further, if Konoha hadn't been blown up. The outer wall exploded, blasted away by a powerful shockwave. Its debris fell in all directions as a good chunk of the construct crumbled. Smoke and ashes filled the air, preventing the shocked ninjas from estimating the level of damage. Then they emerged from the smoke. 24 shadow clones, propelling themselves above the ground with fire techniques. They were flying toward Neji's group, obviously intending to attack them. Konoha nins, prepare to fight. Shikaku shouted, Lee, Neji, Choji, you will serve as frontline fighters. Hinata. It was at this instant Neji's Byakugan noticed an unsettling fact about these clones. Each of them was covered with explosive tags. Kamikaze. Neji shouted. They're kamikaze. He didn't have the time to finish his sentence, the first suicide clone exploding against the tree above him. Then the others followed him, and Neji's world became an endless symphony of explosions, blasts and blinding light. The Hyuga was knocked out for long minutes when a kamikaze exploded a few meters away from him. When Neji opened his eyes again, his body covered with dust and ashes, his ears temporarily deafened, he glanced, confused, at his surroundings. The forest had been turned into a wasteland. Remnants of broken trees, burned grass, craters were everywhere. Neji had never seen a true battlefield, but he guessed it must look like this ruin. Across this wasteland, Neji's friends didn't look so good. Tenten and Shino been hit by a blast at short range and killed instantly. The rest of the Hyuga's classmates were either unconscious or in the middle of waking up, more shocked than hurt. As for the adults, when Neji's ears started working again, the first sound he picked up was the dying rattle of Inoichi Yamanaka. The corpse was tossed near the Hyuga, a gaping hole in the chest. Neji glanced slowly at the responsible. Naruto Uzumaki was in the middle of slowly shoving a long blade through Hiyashi's chest, over the scarred corpse of Shikaku Nara. Neji quickly guessed the Nara had been killed by a particularly powerful explosion. Hiyashi Hyuga, at my mercy at last, Naruto Uzumaki trailed off with malice, his expression one of serene triumph. Do you have any idea how much I hate you? The Hyuga was too shocked and weakened by the blood loss to say anything. That's for ruining my childhood, Naruto hissed, drawing back his blade before stabbing Hiyashi's ribcage with it. That's for enslaving half your family. He stabbed him again, this time through the throat. And this is for all I missed. For these crimes, the sentence is death. And on these words, he impaled Hiyashi's heart, silencing him forever. To Neji and his comrades, it was as if time had stopped. Naruto kept staring at the corpse of his defeated foes, as if in the middle of a trance. Tossing them aside, he inhaled sharply. I finally did it. I killed all of them. Naruto smiled calmly, raising his arms in triumph. I did it. They're all dead. He glared at corpses, and lowered his arms, his voice turning into a low-pitched laugh. Now everything is ashes. All Tsunade has left is ruins, if she didn't die in the chaos that is. Naruto chuckled. My revenge is fulfilled at last. I've won. He glanced at Shikaku's corpse and kicked it. You must have laughed as your kid progressed while putting me down over the years, right? Well, who's laughing now? WHO. By the time he started his monologue, Neji had risen up, imitated by Shikamaru, Ino, Choji, Hinata, Lee, Kiba and Akamaru. They looked both tired and confused. Shikamaru, Ino, and Hinata were glancing at their dead parents with either cold horror or tears in the eyes. Naruto suddenly noticed his former comrades, and glanced at them. Never before had Neji realized just how transformed his old comrade was. Having lost his helmet, the blonde's face was revealed for all to see. His armor was covered with blood, and ashes had covered his cheeks and hair, coloring them gray. His cold blue eyes were devoid of compassion or warmth. He could have been considered handsome if he wasn't seething with malice. Wiping the blood from his sword, the blonde snorted. What are you doing there? He asked, his callous tone chilling his old friends to the bone. Don't you see it's over? I've won. Why? Naruto glanced at Kiba. Why what? Why did you try to kill us all, Naruto? Kiba snarled, his dog barking at his side. Why the fucking hell? The name is Kazama Arashi. Don't you get it? I am Naruto Uzumaki no longer. The madman shrugged. I have undergone a metamorphosis. As for my reasons, they are simple. I had a grudge against Konoha. Especially its main leaders. I simply settled the score. So what's next? Ino asked dangerously, glancing at the corpse of her father in a mix of fear and anger. You're going to kill us all now. Now is just the beginning. What you have seen is simply the first step toward the creation of a new world. Konoha has fallen, but the other hidden ninjas will follow as I pass my judgment upon them. At last, the world will purge from its corruption and impurities. Who are you to pass judgment? Shikamaru snapped, pissed beyond words. Seeing his father killed before his eyes must have had a big effect on his psyche. You are no god. No, I'm still working my way up, Kazama replied softly, as if he truly believed in his superiority. But I've seen a true god, and he taught me the truth about the world. Neji frowned. He was now deeply convinced Naruto had gone completely insane. This world has no destiny, no purpose. It is a failed construct full of design flaws, where people wander in the dark, chained by illusions like pleasure, nations, and traditions. The only way to bring an end to this chaos, to create a better world, is to enforce order. Kazama tightened his fist and raised it triumphantly. Flaws must be terminated. The people's will must be tamed, because they can't be trusted with the future. When all of mankind will be united under a single banner and follow one vision, then my work will be achieved. I won't stand by this, Kazama-san. Lee vowed, after correcting himself. I refuse to let you guide our future. Are you blind? The armored man snorted dismissively. Look around you. Thousands crashed against Konoha's walls, yet I conquered them. I brought thousands on their knees, burned an entire city. I walked worlds beyond your understanding. I've seen things none of you will ever see. I've fought the greatest ninjas of all time and survived. I faced death and lived. I am greater than the leaf, greater than all of you. The madman glared at the group. Whether or not you agree with me does not matter. You will bow or you will die. Face it, Konoha is as dead as your future. Kazama Arashi, Neji spat to the ground. You are a fool. His confidence brought everyone's attention upon him. Konoha is more than walls, Neji started, it's an ideal. It's a nation, a community, ideas binding us. You may have destroyed Konoha, but we shall rebuild it elsewhere. You have changed nothing. The blonde ninja glared at the Hyuga for long seconds. Then pain raced through Neji's chest. Kazama's sword had gone through the Hyuga's heart, the edge of the blade reappearing on the other side of the body. An ideal. Naruto's eyes narrowed menacingly, as his sword regained a normal length, causing Neji to fall to the ground. Let me show you how you kill an ideal. Sasuke. When they finally reached Konoha, it could only be described as a smoking crater. Konoha was ablaze, and a good chunk of the outer wall had been vaporized. Naruto paled deathly. The Marabito. Sasuke nodded grimly. If Kazama's jutsu had raised the city, then it meant his old friend had truly gone off the deep end. There is still hope, he thought, joining his palms. I need to find him. Karen had been a good teacher, as annoying as she was. Truth to be told, Sasuke wasn't an especially competent censor. He couldn't guess an individual's emotions and intents through a mere chakra signature. At best, he could guess a genetic affiliation, or pinpoint a person he had worked with for days. Karen had managed to locate Itachi on a vague description of the Uchiha genius. Sasuke had truly been saddened when Deidara had murdered her. Locating Kazama was easy. He was currently outside the ruins of the city, fighting what appeared to their old genin class. Naruto. Sasuke then picked up a special signature, one who could perhaps give them details. The hawk landed near a group of ninja. They probably thought it was a surprise attack, especially when they saw Naruto. The person Sasuke was looking for, however, recognized the Uchiha and raised her hands. "Stop," she pleaded, her allies reluctantly obeying. She then faced her old teammate. "Sasuke. Sakura." Sasuke descended from his summon, followed by Naruto. "What happened?" It's him." A ninja pointed a finger at Naruto. "It's the devil in disguise." Wait, I'm not. She's Naruto's sister," Sasuke said hurriedly, the admission astonishing the group. "We've been looking for him." He frowned. "He sacked the city, didn't he?" "Yes." Sakura narrowed her eyes with sadness. "I wanted to speak with him, but the Anbu convinced me to help with the evacuation of Tsunade-sama instead." Naruto raised Konoha. "Impossible." Naruto shouted angrily. Sasuke understood she couldn't accept her role model had gone so far. Sensei would never, he couldn't. "Naruto," Sasuke trailed words, trying to find something to say. "It's Madara," she insisted. "He must have brainwashed him. It's always Madara's fault when everything goes wrong." "I met someone pretending to be Madara Uchiha," Sakura admitted. "He denied controlling Naruto. He might have been lying, but I would have noticed a change in Naruto's chakra signature if he was under control," Sasuke noted darkly. "What he did, as sad as it is, was out of his own free will." Naruto ground her teeth, looking in denial. "Where is he?" "From what I got, in the forest outside Konoha," Sakura muttered. "Kakashi-sensei. When I met him, he asked for the direction, and jumped after him without a word." "We need to hurry," Sasuke stated. "He's going to get killed." "Kazama. Neji-kun." Someone shouted. "Lee," Kazama decided, "it's Lee. Kill them all. Pile body upon body. Let the fire cleanse this place. Your home, your family, your loved ones, your life, I will destroy them all. Turn them to ashes, until there is nothing left. I'll destroy everything you ever knew." Shadows prevented the blonde from moving, Shikamaru having reacted first. He might have planned for it ever since Kazama killed his dad and had his shadow turn into spikes. They crashed against the former Jinchuriki's armor, unable to get past it. "There won't be anything left for you to will for." Kazama mentally invoked his chakra chains, which attempted to whip Shikamaru. The Nara was taken by surprise and yet managed to dodge, but he had to release his binding technique to do so. The World Wanderer was no fool. He knew Shikamaru was without a doubt the most dangerous member of his group, and if left alone, he would probably find a strategy to beat the Amekage. So Kazama used his jetfire to propel himself without technically moving his body and smashed a Rasengan against the Nara's ribs. The sheer power of the attack knocked Shikamaru out instantly, propelling him meters away. Instantly spinning on himself to fight the Nara's teammates, Kazama found himself facing Ino. The Yamanaka had recovered from the attack quickly, and activated her min-switch technique. "This is for my dad, asshole," she spat, as it was too late for Kazama to dodge. "Your head is mine." "My head is not a nice place where to be." Ino found herself nailed to a cross in Kazama's mindscape, her limbs impaled by kunai. Darkness surrounded her, hungering for her soul. "I defeated Orochimaru himself in here, destroyed his soul. I've got a ravenous deity in my head, and nothing you can do will ever come close to equaling its malice. In a battle of will, you are no match for me. Here is the proof." Ino Yamanaka suddenly experienced a particularly realistic and painful hallucination of her brutal death. In the real world, she screamed as loudly as her lungs allowed her to while holding her head before finally falling into a catatonic state. "Ino. Shikamaru." Choji's blood boiled with rage, and he glared at Kazama, all his previous kindness replaced by sheer anger. "I'll kill you for this. You don't look half tough enough to do it." With a mental command, Kazama had his chakra chain swirl around Choji's neck and psychically ordered them to choke him. The Akamichi did the one thing he had been trained to do since infancy, grow in size, which was a poor choice. Not only did he fail at breaking the chains, but the pressure on his neck increased. The young teen coughed for several seconds, his face turning purple. Breaking his neck would be faster. Teamwork. Always teamwork. Kazama taunted the Akamichi, as he stepped back to dodge a sneak punch from Lee. Having partners cover your weakness is not the same as being strong. Together you are everything, but separated, you are nothing. When Choji fell unconscious, Kazama had his chains release him and focus on Lee, who moved too fast for the restraints to catch. Noticing Kiba and Akamaru spinning on themselves and flying upward, the Amekage summoned 4 clones to act as decoys, occupying Lee for a time. He didn't have much chakra left, having spent most of it on the Marabito. He had to economize himself, and fighting his enemies one at a time would be wiser. Naruto-kun, on my father's name, and in honor of the lessons you taught me once, Hinata charged toward the Amekage, tears in the eyes. I will stop you here. Kazama easily dodged her hands and punched her chest with the power of a sledgehammer, shattering a few ribs. The young woman coughed in surprise and pain, doubly so when the blonde seized her by the shoulders and threw her at Kiba and Akamaru. Hinata. The Inuzuka shouted in horror, interrupting his technique not to hurt the Hyuga. He barely caught his teammate, landing with her on his knees. When he rose back up, Hinata laying at his feet, Kazama was already at his throat, preparing to shatter his skull with a Rasengan. The Inuzuka instinctively protected himself with his arms. Both of them broke upon contact. Propelled to his back with a groan, Kiba simply wasn't fast enough to dodge what was coming next, especially with his arms broken. Chakra chains whipped the Inuzuka as if he was a wild animal, drawing blood with each strike. A dozen times he was whipped into submission, until he stopped moving, his back and face red with his body fluids. That's where you belong, Kazama sneered, upon having his chains vanish, at my feet. Break their bones and spirit. Akamaru barked, spun again, and attempted to ram the Amekage. The armored ninja prepared another Rasengan and smashed it against the living projectile, matching its strength for 3 seconds, before the spiraling orb won out. The dog was propelled away, knocked out. Meanwhile, Lee had trashed the shadow clones and raced toward Kazama. 5th gate, open. The ninja's skin reddened, and his opponent started having trouble seeing the green fighter's punch coming. Kazama seized the kusanagi with both hands and used the edge to parry. Lee's fist met the blade, the metal cutting the flesh and perhaps the bone. Yet Kazama struggled to keep his balance. 6th gate, open. The pressure increased. Lee raised his other fist and punched the kusanagi once more. This time, the metal bent, before breaking like glass. Kazama's eyes widened in dread, as the blow's mere shockwave sent the Amekage to fly 30 meters in the distance. The blonde activated his jet fire and avoided a deadly crash, just in time to see Lee charging again. 7th gate. The ninja roared, chakra swirling around his body. Open. For the first time in the entire invasion of Konoha, Kazama was truly terrified. Putting all his power in his flight, the Amekage propelled himself upward as fast as he could, toward the clouds. Lee attempted to jump at his pursuit, the ground shattering under his feet. His hand nearly caught the Uzumaki's ankle, yet thankfully, the green beast of Konoha had leapt too late. He fell to the ground, and glanced at his opponent. He probably expected the armored man to launch a bombardment. Kazama simply put himself out of Lee's enhanced reach, and waited. Lee's lack of distance attack meant he couldn't hit his adversary. The Amekage simply had to stay out of reach until the deadly side effects of opening the 8 gates brought the green teen to his knees. Lee quickly guessed Kazama's strategy and attempted to jump once more, failing, as Kazama's altitude was too great for the taijutsu expert to reach. The green ninja then repeated the move, except mid-flight he moved his arms so fast he unleashed a powerful gale at his enemy. The destroyer of cities simply flew to his left, dodging the unnatural wind. Lee crashed on the ground, his muscles having been paralyzed. Once certain his opponents weren't playing possum, Kazama landed peacefully, victorious, and tired. His chakra reserves had fallen so low, he doubted he could use his most powerful techniques in quick succession anymore. I can help you with that. No, Kazama replied out loud, struggling against a headache. He glanced at his defeated foes, making hand seals. Say hi to your dead comrades in the afterlife from me, would you? He opened his mouth and unleashed a fireball at the unconscious Konoha nin. For an instant, the flames progressed, coming within an inch of Shikamaru's face, then they twisted, swallowed by a gaping hole in space. It reminded him of. He heard the familiar cackling of 1,000 birds behind him. Dodging a Chidori was nearly impossible, since the Sharingan allowed its user to predict the target's every move. However, it had a major weakness: the user had to run in a straight line. Quickly producing a heat wave, Kazama used it to jump in the air, his would-be killer missing his sneak attack and continuing to run forward. As the Amekage landed gracefully behind his newest opponent, he felt his blood freezing in his veins. Me, Kakashi Hatake confirmed, his tone echoing with sadness. I knew it would end like this. I hoped it wouldn't, but... Kazama kept glaring at his newest foe, his heart beating faster than ever. How can you stand against me? You died for me. Why do you rise from the grave to fight me? Why do you betray me too? He massaged his temples, struggling against a headache. You're not the real one. Kakashi blinked in confusion, before frowning. I am sorry, if I had been a better teacher his Sharingan's Tomo spun. I understand what the Sandaime went through now. Master and student, let's end it all now. Shut up. Kazama gathered his remaining chakra and unleashed the most powerful wall of fire he could muster. A tsunami of flames rushed toward the legendary ninja, who unleashed his own version. Both techniques cancelled each other, the heat increasing on the battlefield. You think you can beat me? Kazama snarled, his technique winning out and swallowing Kakashi whole. All you can do is copy, like a monkey. The earth under his feet opened, and another Kakashi leapt through it, a kunai in hands. Understanding the one he destroyed was a shadow clone, Kazama dodged the sneak attack and retaliated with a roundhouse kick. Kakashi lowered himself. The kick missed, and while Kazama was occupied trying to regain his momentum, the copy nin had prepared a second Chidori. The Amekage swiftly deflected Kakashi's arm with a push of his palm, the sphere of lightning barely missing his face. Before Kakashi could retaliate, Kazama headbutted his teacher's nose. This briefly stunned both ninjas, but the much more enraged blonde quickly recovered and used an uppercut on Kakashi's jaw. The cracking sound indicated it might have been dislocated, encouraging the Amekage to continue his assault. Kakashi dodged a punch, and then the next. Why don't you die? Kazama snarled wrathfully, his fighting style degenerating into a wild series of blows. Kakashi's Sharingan and superior taijutsu skill easily allowed him to counter the strikes, before retaliating with punches. His left fist broke Kazama's nose, the right nearly knocked him out. As Kakashi prepared to punch his student again, Kazama summoned his chakra chains. They caught Kakashi's arm by surprise, and without releasing him, tossed him on the ground like a ragdoll. New chains swirled around the Junin's limbs, pinning him to the ground. Storm, flail, Kazama hissed, as he prepared his jutsu. This will take my remaining reserves, but I assure you, not even dust will be left of you. Sensei, no. Kazama's heart briefly stopped beating. How could she be here? Why was she here, of all people? Naruko Uzumaki wasn't alone, as she descended from a giant hawk. Sasuke Uchiha and Sakura Haruno were there too. I guess they followed me, Kazama thought, although Sakura's presence was a surprise. Had she decided to join them? Regaining his composure, the Amekage coughed. My, it's such a nice family reunion, he said. Team 7 is back together again. He would have found it funny, if he wasn't so enraged. Naruto, Sakura noticed her defeated classmates and the rest of the mass murderer's victims. What happened? It's pretty obvious, Sasuke replied dryly, before glancing at Kakashi. Kazama, don't do that. Your sister doesn't have to watch you like this. I'm perfectly fine. Kazama glanced at Naruto. This is fortunate you happened to come by. This way you'll learn what needs to be done. What needs to be done? Naruto paled. Sensei, it's Madara who's controlling you, right? You aren't yourself. I'm myself. In fact, I've never felt better. Kazama clenched his fists. He could see the tears in Naruto's eyes, in the disappointment and sadness in Sasuke's Sharingan. Why do you look at me like that? Stop doing that. Kazama, Sasuke implored, as Sakura put her hands over her mouth in dread. Please, release Kakashi. He might have hurt you, but killing him might be a little disproportionate. Disproportionate? Have you gone insane? I told you they would betray you, the voice pointed out. They are on Konoha's payroll. Kill them. I am the only one you can trust. You suggest we let them go? Sasuke, Konoha took everything from us. Our past and our future. They sacrificed us, used us as tools, and now you want to let them go. This is the only way to fix the world. Why would killing them all fix anything? Sasuke snapped. Don't you get it? As long as they live, the hidden village will return and nothing will change. Kazama ground his teeth. Have you forgotten your family? Or what happened to Itachi? The happiness of Konoha was built on your misery, on the bones of everyone you ever loved. Why don't you hate them as much as I do? But I do hate them. Kazama blinked. When I learned the truth, I raged. I imagined them laughing over the graves of my family, ignorant of Itachi's sacrifice, of the suffering Konoha had brought. Sasuke took his breath, ignoring Sakura's troubled eyes. I imagined myself turning their laughter into screams of terror. I wanted to make them suffer as I suffered, to turn their hope into despair. Then why? Kazama frowned, his headache worsening. I don't get it. Sasuke locked eyes with his old rival. Then I realized, if I did that, I would be no better than freaks like Orochimaru. I would sully the Uchiha's name with atrocities, instead of cleansing it. I would lower myself to Danzo's level. When I realized I had lost you, the last person to consider me a brother, I vowed to become a good person. I didn't want to blacken my soul again. And for that, you would just walk away. The Imekage glared at the Uchiha. Have you lost all sanity? Revenge comes at a price. It only spreads more pain and suffering, and the innocents you harm in your wake become warped themselves. It's not justice, it's a poison. It is not worth the cost of the happiness you have to sacrifice for it. It's not worth the bitterness and the guilt you have to live with once the blood debt is settled. Sasuke chuckled sadly. I guess in another world, our roles would have been reversed. But there has to be another way. Please, he offered his hand in a peaceful offer. Stop this madness. The blonde watched him in silence, then he focused on Kakashi. The man who had lied to him, betrayed him. The man who he should have ripped the Sharingan out of his eye, for he had not honored Obito's sacrifice enough. I have come so far already, Kazama finally replied, with a sense of finality, one more kill won't hurt. Sensei, I still remember the lessons you taught us, Kitsune and I. Naruto cleared her throat, crying. That we could become better person if we tried hard enough. The Kazama I knew and love, would try to. If you stay on this path, Madara will win. She put herself on her hands and knees. Please, I beg you, don't let him win. Kazama lowered his head, troubled. Why? Why did he suddenly feel that strange? Could it be shame? Remorse? Freeing his captive teacher, the Uzumaki watched the ruins of Konohagakure. He suddenly wondered if inside, children who didn't even know who he was had been killed in the fire. Did I go too far? You did what was necessary, the voice argued. It felt good, to get even. Do not deny it. They are just trying to manipulate you, they work for Konoha, they are your enemies. Yes, he had many enemies, but, Kazama glanced at his old classmates. Hinata, the one person who had believed in him during the Chunin exams, Neji, Shikamaru, Kiba and Choji, who nearly gave his life so he could bring Sasuke back, and so many others who had done nothing personally to him. He had hurt them all, and he had no excuse for that. Kazama raised his hands and observed them. They were still red with blood. Did they all deserve death? The answer was painfully obvious. What have I done? I fucked up. He laughed bitterly. I'm insane. That's so fucked up I don't have words for it. Sensei. Whenever I go, I bring misery. Maybe, it would be better if I were gone. He observed Naruto. Tell Izanami, and the others, that, I'm sorry. For everything. Wait. And like that, he was gone. He vanished and rematerialized in a corner of the multiverse. It was a beach, under a shining moon. Ignoring the moonlight, he approached from the sea with only a crazed voice and his own guilt for company. I do not understand. I do not. Why? Why did you not kill them all? I saw it, time and time again, so why? All this preparation, all this planning for the desired result, wasted for why? Why didn't you kill them? Why didn't you give your heart to me? Why? This is not logical. Why? Explain. Why? Kazama ignored the voice, and focused on cleansing his hands. Yet, when he stared into the water, it wasn't his face which was reflected on the water. It was Madara's. Chapter 47. Hokage. Karasu Uchiha was used to getting beaten up. He was never immune to pain, unlike many ninja of Iwa who could take blows without flinching. In close combat his one advantage was the Sharingan, and that was it. His fighting style focused on either trapping the opponent within paralyzing illusions or launching fire techniques from distance. So when his opponent was both invulnerable to genjutsu and fast enough to prevent the Uchiha from putting some distance between them, he would get his ass kicked 9 times out of 10. This battle was no exception. Still standing kid. The Sound Nin's fist hit the Susanoo's torso with the might of a sledgehammer. The mere aftershock almost brought the Uchiha to his knees. It's alright to call it quits now. To be honest, it would make my life easier. Go fuck yourself, Karasu replied with a growl, his Susanoo failing to punch the lightning-fast monster. The power of this enhanced cursed seal was truly terrifying. You know, I laughed really hard when your girlfriend died, the Oto Nin gloated. Oh, too soon. Don't worry, you'll be reunited with her in no time flat. It was an obvious ploy to make the Uchiha slip up, so Karasu did his best to ignore the taunt. He prepared to use Amaterasu when his bleeding eye noticed a red ball bouncing in his direction. The projectile hit the Susanoo's torso and bounced off it, making Karasu lose his footing. After the bouncing ball, the jester joked, his shape changing from spherical to humanoid, the birds and the bees. Well, mostly the bees. Joining his hands, the maniac spat a cloud of small bees. They landed on the Susanoo and started devouring its chakra, dissolving it before Karasu's horrified eyes. That was disgusting, even by the Aburame technique standards. The Sound Nin complained as his partner landed at his left. And man, that joke wasn't funny. That was no joke, the jester cracked, this kid is the joke. Point made. The Sound Nin laughed, vanishing and reappearing in front of Karasu, who, without the Susanoo as protection, got his face punched for his trouble. His body staggered, and his Amaterasu missed its target, burning one of the buildings nearby. Without wasting any time, the Sound Nin grabbed Karasu's skull and smashed it on the ground, breaking his nose and blurring his sight. He prepared for a repeat performance when a chain of bullets of wind hit his vitals and arm, forcing him to release his prey, followed by a powerful gale that blasted him away. Karasu's savior, a Naruto Uzumaki wearing a mask, jumped at his side and helped him get back to his feet. We need to separate them, the Dragon Anbu suggested, the Sound Nin's wounds already closing up. Their teamwork is superior to ours. Hey, you hear that? The jester mocked, raising his mace and attempted to smash the Anbu's head with it. Dead guy walking wants a solo performance. Don't you know jokes need someone to tell them, and someone else to listen? Yours aren't funny, the Anbu replied evenly, hitting the mace with his palm that was surrounded with wind. The metal was cut in half, and the jester's head would have suffered the same fate had his partner not pushed him out of range in the nick of time. Skullkisser. The jester ground his teeth. You broke my mace, asshole. I'll buy you a new one, but only if you would kindly focus on killing these annoyances, the Sound Nin snapped as he attempted a horizontal strike at the Anbu. The masked teen, obviously quite slow, simply caught his counterpart's arm and twisted it. The psychopath roared in surprise and pain while the masked soldier prepared to behead him with his wind palm. The jester exploited the opening, smashing the back of the attacker's head with a brick. The object exploded upon contact, much to the clown's astonishment. I knew I should have grabbed the crowbar, he muttered, tackling the Anbu with his shoulder. Hey, dude, what's your name? Hit girl. 'Cause you hit like a girl. The name is Masayoshi, the Anbu snapped, kicking the clown between the legs. I am Justice. That's lame. I don't know, you would better call yourself Kick-Ass or something. The jester growled. His eyes turned red, his whiskers grew in size, and his nails turned into claws. No, that's not right, you should just call yourself Ass-Kicked. Faster than ever, the jester started beating up the Anbu, quickly joined by his partner. The masked man managed to land a few hits, but at 1 against 2 he was badly outmatched. A kunai in hand, Karasu attempted to discreetly sneak behind the jester and slit his throat. Behind you. The Sound Nin warned, causing his partner to jerk his head as the last moment. The clown dodged the knife and punched the Uchiha on the ribs, propelling the guy to the ground. Did no one ever tell you that you should never bring a knife to a kick fight? The jester mocked his opponent, kicking his chest repeatedly. The sound nin was meanwhile giving the Anbu the beating of his life. I thought your bad day would have taught you that, one eye. Karasu groaned, unable to move. The Anbu was thrown on top of the Uchiha, while there would be killer's hand checked. Nice pun with the kicks, the sound nin commented. Yeah, and thanks for saving my skin. The jester glanced down at his defeated opponents. You wanna rip the Sharingan out of this guy's face? Again, last time I spared him he escaped and caused trouble. Let's just finish them off and go help the boss. You heard my partner, the clown mocked, taking a kunai and preparing to gut Karasu. Why so serious? Come on, now's your chance to get the last laugh. An iron hand punched the clown's face at the speed of sound, propelling him through a building's wall. The three remaining Naruto glanced at the one responsible, a human puppet which had probably been flying toward their location as fast as he could. His body was covered with red chakra, and he radiated killing intent. I'm taking care of Insect Man, Chibaku stated, grabbing the sound nin and flying with him toward the Hokage monument. Would you kindly take down the clown without fashion sense? Karasu and the Masayoshi exchanged a glance. With pleasure, the first said, launching a fireball toward the building the jester had crashed into. The Anbu increased its potency with a wind technique, causing the entire area to be set ablaze. The jester walked out of the flames, with 4 tails. Man, I'm so hot, the psycho laughed, his skin getting quickly replaced by a mix of blood and chakra. Admit it girls, you all wanted to bang Mr. Fox one day or another. This is bad, Karasu thought as the jester began to resemble what Inari became during his fight with the resurrected Kazekage, just before the Jinchuriki raced toward the duo and attempted to rip them apart with his claws. Both of the Narutos dodged, with the Anbu retaliating by cladding his fingers in wind and attempting to impale the jester's heart with them. The thick chakra cloak nullified the attack without any trouble. You're out of your league, Robocop. One of the chakra tails smashed the root ninja, propelling him 3 meters backward. I'm airtight. You don't know half of what I can do, the Anbu replied, as he regained his footing and prepared a new jutsu. Oh yeah, well, I'm gonna tear you in half. The mini Kyuubi raised his fingers, small drops of blood swirling around them. Suddenly, they flew in the Anbu's direction, like bullets. Chakra Gatling. Summoning his Susanoo again, Karasu put himself in the way, shielding his unlikely ally. I just needed a look at you to learn everything there is to know about you two, the jester taunted, increasing his firing speed. You both had one bad day. Anyone, hurt you really bad, and you went crazy. Why else would you dress up as a crazy assassin, or stay carefree when the world is crashing down around you? He opened his mouth, and unleashed a small albeit still very powerful beam of focused chakra at the Susanoo. Karasu struggled to resist, as the mini Kyuubi kept firing blast after blast. I was like you, ya know. The clown ranted. I disguised myself as that asshole Sasuke to get close to my crush, and she told me I was lucky not to have a family, and that was why I was so annoying. So I smashed her head in, just like this. He suddenly charged at them and attempted to behead them with his claws. The Anbu leapt above the ground, enhanced his limb with chakra, and kicked the mini Kyuubi's fangs. His skin burned a little, yet it stunned the beast long enough for Karasu to remake his Susanoo and hammer the beast into the ground. The Anbu started moving incredibly fast, nearly too much for the Sharingan to follow. Karasu quickly realized he was using his wind powers to nullify the air resistance, increasing his mobility. Yeah, that's the spirit. The jester's tails moved in a chaotic frenzy, trying to hit the 2 Uzumaki at random. When I killed Sakura, it all became clear. All that talk about morality, how good guys always win, is bullshit. Civilization was but a big joke. Deep down, everyone just wants to do whatever the hell they want. That's why you're destroying thousands of lives. Because you can. Karasu frowned darkly, retaliating with a volley of fireballs aiming for his enemy's eyes. Meh, what's the point in being born with power if you can't lord over those who don't have it? The mini Kyuubi taunted, shielding his eyes with his arms. Look at your pal, why else do you think he went Anbu for Danzo? He just wants the power. No, the masked man replied, launching the clown above the ground with a powerful uppercut, his human flesh melting upon contact. I went Anbu to kill people like you. The Susanoo grabbed the Jinchuriki's tails midair and swung him to the ground like a rag doll, repeatedly. I went Anbu not for Danzo, or for the leaf. I went Anbu to kill Sasuke. And now that you took my revenge away from me, I will settle on killing you and your gang. The Anbu and the Susanoo ganged up on the mini Kyuubi, hitting him 20 times within the span of 20 seconds. Ninjas like you and Sasuke disgust me. You use your suffering as an excuse to inflict more suffering. Normal people don't react to misfortune by blowing up buildings. Karasu added, his ethereal armor shattering 2 of the beast's fangs. You're just a bully with an oversized ego. I suffered too, yeah, but it only hardened my resolve not to become like my tormentors. Deep down, you're just a coward who didn't have the strength to persevere. Shut up. The jester snapped angrily, raising his claws. Shut the hell up. His hands caught both the Anbu and the Uchiha's armor, lifted them above the soil, and pinned them to the ground. The mini Kyuubi opened his mouth, preparing to blast his opponents at point-blank range. Any last word, Sharingan? Yeah, Karasu was grateful the beast was finally both close and within his entire field of vision. I've got one. Amaterasu. The fire spread over the surprised Jinchuriki's face, neck, torso, and shoulders. He roared in pain, unwillingly releasing his captives, and staggered away, vainly trying to extinguish the flames by rolling to the ground. Both Karasu and Masayoshi watched the horrifying spectacle, as the Saika's flesh and bones melted. Senpai. The jester cried in anguish. Senpai, help. Save me. Save me. Karasu's eyes turned away from the spectacle, as the fire finished off the madman. When the screaming was over, the remaining Narutos exchanged a glance, and rose back to their feet. They had a city to save. Chibaku. His armor radiated with crimson chakra. He doubted he would last long in this state, yet he had no choice if he wanted to keep up with the Sound Nin. It would be victory or death. Let me go, you metal freak. The mutant freak complained, trying to bite Chibaku's face off. The human puppet instead flew toward the Hokage monument, grabbed the villain's head, and smashed it against the Shodai Hokage's face. The aftershock turned the stone carving into a crater. Yet the fight was far from over. The Sound Nin opened his mouth, releasing a sonic blast powerful enough to stun Chibaku. The mutant freed himself from his rival's grip, grabbed the human puppet's leg, and tossed him below. The cyborg managed to regain his momentum and control, hovering just an inch above the ground. A shadow grew above him, and a cracking sound made Chibaku's eyes rise up. The Sound Nin had separated Danzo's face from the rest of the Hokage monument, and had pushed it toward Chibaku. Oh fuck. The puppeteer cursed, flying away as the gigantic rock crashed into the ground, destroying entire streets. The Sound Nin pursued his opponent with the advantage of being faster. I've no idea how you managed to track us down, weakling, but this time I'm going to obliterate you into scraps. The Sound Nin used a shunshin to appear right in front of Chibaku and punched him in the torso, bending the metal that it was made of and sending the teen to crash into a training ground below. Chibaku barely had the time to rise up before the Sound Nin was already at his throat. Dodging proved to be very difficult, to the point Chibaku was constantly on the defensive. In the end, he wasn't able to avoid a kick between the legs, then a small series of palm strikes which destroyed a good chunk of his arsenal. He was propelled backward and his head hit the grass. The Sound Nin was literally wiping the floor with the puppeteer's face. I'm going to get slaughtered if this continues, the puppeteer thought grimly. He's so fast, I need to keep up with his speed. You can't, the Kyuubi shot back. His body is genetically geared to be faster than anything. Even with my chakra you can't match his speed. There has to be a solution. He's so fast you can't both dodge and retaliate. But you forget, I'm here. Chibaku grinned inwardly, guessing the fox's plan. While I can't match him in speed, if I put all my concentration in dodging while you attack, we may have a chance. Just focus on dodging while I'll hit him, the Kyuubi declared. Chibaku rose back up, a one-tailed chakra cloak surrounding him. Bring it, you giant beetle. The mutant charged with a mighty roar. This time, Chibaku entirely focused on dodging, ignoring openings and being entirely on the defensive. A punch missed, then a kick, then a palm strike. The chakra tail successfully hit the Sound Nin's head, however. You little, Orochimaru's student snapped. I'm gonna hurt you so bad your own mom won't recognize you. Ah, sorry, I forgot, you don't have one. I don't need a mother when I've got the best partner watching my back, Chibaku replied, the chakra cloak's arms pummeling the Sound Nin's face repeatedly. He's not that good in close combat now, I negated his speed advantage. The puppeteer had an eureka moment. Oh hell, that's his weakness. He has focused on his speed and strength at the expense of everything else. He's overspecialized. To be fair, it was a pretty valid tactic. With his nature as a trained Jinchuriki, the Sound Nin was invulnerable to all but the most powerful genjutsu, and with his speed being on par with the yellow flashes, he was simply unbeatable in close combat if his opponent couldn't keep up. He simply moved too quickly for the reflexes of most ninjas to manage. So he traded skill for increased agility. Considering Orochimaru had always felt overshadowed by the yellow flash, it made sense he learned the lesson and taught his apprentice his old rival's fighting style. Now his main advantage was negated. Probably for the first time in his life, he simply had no backup tactic to fall back on. The Kyuubi, a partner. Don't make me laugh. It's just a walking chakra battery. The Oto Nin flew away and started unleashing a series of sonic blasts, probably his only long-range jutsu. If you're forced to ask for its chakra instead of taking it, then you don't deserve to be Naruto Uzumaki. If you're that powerful, then why are you running away? Chibaku asked, dodging the attacks and trying to close the gap. Unfortunately, the Sound Nin had realized he was outmatched in close combat and kept his distance, spamming his sonic blasts. He probably hoped it would hit one time, or that Chibaku's armor wouldn't stand the Kyuubi's chakra for long, and he was right. Peef, why can you ever comprehend anything about partnership? You're a tamed animal yourself. Chibaku chuckled, trying to taunt his opponent into slipping up. Orochimaru trained his pet well. You know nothing, the mutant snapped. I'm the best pupil Orochimaru-sama ever had. That's what he told you. Right, as if Orochimaru ever cared about you. You're just a tool to him. The puppeteer laughed. Let me guess, he found you when you were at your lowest point, telling you how much potential you had. That's he was proud of you. Do you think you're the first person in the world? Snakey said that too. Don't you dare insult my master, you walking failure. Obviously, the puppeteer had hit a nerve. He's greater than you. Than anyone. He made me who I am. A conqueror. A winner. You're just a freak trapped in a metal shell cause you were too weak to defend yourself. Oh, so you're a winner. Then why didn't Orochimaru teach you how to win against someone like me? Chibaku mocked. Maybe he wanted you not to be too strong, in case he had to get rid of you. Are you done talking? Suddenly, the Sound Nin stopped firing sonic blasts and tackled Chibaku to the ground, resisting the chakra cloak's attempts at freeing its ally. He was the only one who believed in me. The Sound Nin snapped viciously. I failed as a genin of Konoha, but he still took me in. He gave me power. If that's not love, I don't know what it is. He raised his claw. See that? That's the perfect body and claws that can rip metal. Orochimaru-sama's power. The Sound Nin sneered. What have you got, metal boy? Chibaku pointed his palm at the Sound Nin's torso. I've got a mining laser. Then, he fired. His world was swallowed by light, and when it was over, the Sound Nin had a gigantic hole in the chest where the heart and lungs should have been. The mutant glanced at it in shock before collapsing onto his back, dead. Gotta hand it to Inari. Out of all the crazy versions of me out there, he's at least the one of the few that seems to know what he's talking about. Lasers rule. Chibaku chuckled before attempting to rise up, and failing. I think the internal damage was a little too much, the Kyuubi said, its chakra cloak receding. You'll live, but you won't be able to walk until you repair yourself. At least, we got him. Chibaku smiled inwardly. Thanks, I wouldn't have done it without you. Hey, you're my sidekick. Of course I'm gonna take care of you. Great, now I've got to call you Boss Kyuubi. Kurama. Chibaku stayed silent an instant. Kurama, he asked out loud. The name is Kurama, not Kyuubi. The fox snorted. You better remember it, sidekick. The puppeteer laughed so hard he didn't notice two people sneaking up on him. Tobirama Senju. The Hokage. Ablaze. The entire area had been set ablaze. It was a field of ashes. What's wrong, Nadime-san? Deidara mocked as he slowly walked towards him, taking Suiten techniques to the face without flinching. No one-liners. Is my awesomeness making you speechless? Suiten. Water Dragon. Tobirama shouted, Kakuzu and Haku imitating him. 3 projectiles of focused liquid hit the pseudo-Jinchuriki, backed up by Danzo's bullets of wind. Hopefully, we can solidify his magma armor and paralyze him, Tobirama thought. Water and wind. What part of fucking walking volcano did you miss? The heat around Deidara increased to the point air itself seemed affected. The water dragons evaporated upon coming in contact with the bomber, while the wind bullets were helpless at penetrating his armor. Things just got a little more complicated, Tobirama thought as Deidara radiated with light. The ground underneath them shook a little, chakra gathering under the ninja's feet. Pillars of fire sprung from the earth, forcing Tobirama, Danzo, Kakuzu and Haku to race around the arena. Does anyone have anything that can get past his armor? The bounty asked. Because without at least fire, wind and lightning aligned hearts, which I'm currently lacking, I've nothing that can take him down. We do not need to get past the armor, Danzo said. We can bury him alive. Tobirama nodded. The ceiling of the blind. His old student nodded, not having forgotten this formation. Danzo joined his palms, and unleashed a blast of air at the ashes underneath Deidara's feet. The bomber was surrounded with a cloud of them, unable to see clearly. Swamp of the underworld. Tobirama shouted, exploiting his target's temporary blindness. An artificial swamp materialized underneath Deidara, swallowing him whole. Most of the water evaporated, but as the ground became soft, the bomber started sinking through it. He's gonna get out, Kakuzu said evenly, as if talking about a story or a play he was watching in real time. I just know it. 2 seconds later, a fist of magma smashed Danzo's face, melting the skull and brain. Tobirama's reflexes saved him from a similar fate, but he could still feel the intense heat from the close proximity. Walking out of a portal of light, his ring lit up, the bomber cracked his knuckles. One down, many more to go. The ring, that's how he can travel across dimensions, Tobirama realized. He opened a portal underneath his feet in order to escape my trap. He felt briefly sad at the death of his old student, yet focused back on the battle. Target the ring. We can't trap him if he keeps it. Easier said than done, Kakuzu noted. Then Danzo shoved an explosive kunai in Deidara's right eye. Everyone blinked, doubly so when Deidara roared, more out of surprise than pain, once the weapon exploded. His eyes weren't as protected as the rest of his body, it seemed. Danzo melted due to the close contact to the bomber, yet rematerialized away, with minor clothing damage. Upon glancing at his arm, Tobirama guessed what his student had done. Azanagi. Ah yes, sharing hacks. The eye with the power to screw with the laws of reality at random. How wonderfully lame. The bomber's wounded eye had already started regenerating. I hope for you you've got a large supply, cause when you don't have any left I'm gonna blow up your ass so hard you won't be able to sit down in your afterlife. The bomber paused and shuddered. I really need to work on my one-liners. Deidara joined his palms, shaping a dozen of bird sculptures out of his magma armor. They flew above the ground and dive-bombed Danzo, focusing exclusively on him. Tobirama exploited the opportunity to analyze the situation. Kakuzu put a hand over his and Haku's shoulder. Let's get away. Both water users glanced at him in incomprehension. Let them kill each other, Kakuzu said. Your techniques are powerless against this guy, and in my case, I'm not in top shape. He's not even taking us seriously. We can regroup elsewhere and prepare a real plan then. Deidara will destroy the city if we do that. Haku replied, infuriated. Thousands will die. Kakuzu shrugged his shoulders. What would be the problem? They imprisoned us, remember? And you were never there for Konoha. You were there to rescue your friend and destroy the guy's super weapon. True, Tobirama trailed off, before frowning. But I was Hokage. Even if I don't like what Konoha has become, I am bound to protect it to the best of my abilities. Well, if you've got suicidal tendencies, it's not my problem, Kakuzu replied. I'm not fighting battles I'm not sure I can win. See you around. And like that, he vanished with a shunshin. That ungrateful son of a. Tobirama ground his teeth, before deciding to focus on the real threat. No matter. We've got a pseudo-Jinchuriki to defeat. The aforementioned criminal was currently exchanging taunts with Danzo, who was desperately trying his best to stay alive. Tobirama blinked when the Godime was incinerated by a ball of magma, only to materialize a few feet away. Even if you defeat me, Konoha will survive, the Godime boasted, it will endure and it will prevail. Please, don't use that will of fire bullshit. I'm fed up with it. Deidara laughed, unleashing a series of magma sculptures at his opponent. And before you start, don't feed me that, everything I do is for the greater good, excuse. All you ever wanted was to prove you were right and everybody else was in the wrong. That's just how you dictators work. You delude yourself into thinking you have higher goals than your own power, but trust me, you aren't the first self-righteous autocrat that I've offed. Sweden. 1,000 water dragons. Tobirama shouted, unleashing multiple projectiles of water at the pseudo-Jinchuriki, backed up by spears of ice. Deidara's body radiated with light, his flames turning white. The water evaporated before it even entered in contact with the man. Damn it, his body temperature is increasing. At this rate he'll simply have to get close to kill us. Everyone needs stability, Danzo replied, breathing bullets of air at Deidara's eyes. People can't rule themselves and wish for all conflict to end. Konoha needed me. I am the strength of the leaf. I beg to differ. Ignoring the assault, Deidara suddenly raced toward the Godime with surprising speed. Danzo attempted to step back, only to have his arm caught by the pseudo-Jinchuriki's hand. The Godime grunted, as his flesh melted upon contact. People want to beat up those who insult them. People want to bang the cute girl next door. People want to do whatever the hell they feel like doing. You are not necessary, you are unnecessary. Then he severed Danzo's arm, burning it whole, and brutally tossed the root leader into the ruins of his city. You and your beliefs are outdated. They're the remnants of an old age that just won't die, an illness that keeps poisoning us. The next century is mine, you old fart. Your traditions, your ideas, everything, I shall blast it all to ashes. Deidara turned to face Tobirama. And now, it's your turn to learn a lesson. Tobirama barely had the time to blink as Deidara closed the gap between them in a flash. His mere proximity was nearly deadly, and the second Hokage prepared to dodge his burning punch. Only for Deidara to get his face kicked by a foot of ice, making him stagger. He wasn't the only one surprised. Haku herself seemed astonished that her maneuver worked. Her entire body had turned into ice. The hell? Deidara asked, regaining his footing. Why didn't you melt? I turned myself into the coldest, hardest ice on earth, reinforced by my chakra, Haku replied, hitting Deidara with an open palm strike. The man resisted the attack, and retaliated with a lightning-fast backhand movement. Yet, even he couldn't match the Snow Woman's incredible agility. It is strong enough to resist direct contact with you. For now, cutie, you'll start to melt, sooner or later. Keep your distance, sensei, Haku said, I'll keep him in place for as long as I can. Grunting, Tobirama was forced to obey when he realized he was unnecessary. Why? Why was he outmatched? Why Haku could keep up with Deidara, while he couldn't? Because the younger generation would always surpass the previous. This was his core belief, and he had the proof right in front of him. There has to be a way, Tobirama thought, trying to analyze the battle in hopes of finding Deidara's weakness. The man was pretty fast, but he obviously wasn't an expert at hand-to-hand combat, his magma armor being his main means of attack and defense. Haku was faster, dodging and hitting with the utmost grace. Milady, it seems my charm is leaving you cold, Deidara joked, preparing a bigger statue of magma, allow me to warm you up a bit. Boy, I feel sorry for this bad poo. A punch of ethereal chakra shut him up, sending him to roll a few feet away. Yeah, what a way to make an entrance, Chibaku commented, carried by the dragon Anbu. Clad in his Susanoo, Karasu was at their side, as they leapt next to Tobirama. Sorry, heroes are always late to the party. Oh man, what an ugly picture, half-dead teens and useless old men all arrayed against the poor me. Deidara cracked his neck, as he got back to his feet. Chibaku-kun, I see you refused my generous offer. Sorry, I'm on the winning team. The puppeteer shrugged. Surrender, your allies are either dead or in disarray. You are outnumbered 5-1. Deidara glanced at Karasu, taking his survival as the sign his own henchmen failed. Tobirama interpreted his brief silence for sadness, which was quickly replaced with calm, controlled anger. I don't need any army, because I am an army of one. The bomber boasted confidently, since my protégés are dead, I don't have to care about collateral damage, do I? He raised his hands and smashed the ground with them. Doden. Nature's power. With these words, he caused an earthquake. Deidara's chakra awakened the power sleeping under the earth, which trembled. Buildings crumbled, ninjas were all thrown off their feet by the shockwave, and the entire region trembled. The pseudo-Jinchuriki then opened his mouth, gathering chakra into a sphere of pure power. Nobody kills my followers under my watch and gets away with it, ever. The bomber exhaled, preparing the sphere in Tobirama's direction. Deidara's C5. He would have probably vaporized Konoha, if a half-dead Danzo Shimura hadn't thrown himself at his face. His body burned, yet, he found the strength to activate a seal on his torso. For the sake of the leaf, Danzo whispered, "I'll drag you in hell. Get back, you walking tumor." The seal ignored the warning, taking the form of a black sphere consuming anything in the vicinity. Tobirama recognized it as a suicide technique, which would seal everything nearby into the void. Deidara attempted to escape its grasp, but the blackness reached his arms, devouring them in the unfinished Bijudama. When it receded, Danzo's corpse was surrounded by a crater, falling to the ground. "My arms." The bomber cursed. "That old cow took my arms. Without your ring, you've got no way out of this one, and without your arms, you've lost nearly all your jutsu," Chibaku pointed out. "It's over. Surrender and we'll let you live for interrogation." The bomber grunted. "I may be armless, but I'm far from harmless." Deidara's eyes lit up, like twin suns. "If I go down, you all go down." The pressure around him increased. He's gathering his chakra in his heart and preparing to implode. Kubaiko panicked. He's going to blow himself up. "Stop that, Deidara-san." Haku shouted. "You're going to kill yourself. As long as I drag you to the underworld, I win. Soon, every single one of us is gonna vanish in a big nuclear mushroom." Deidara laughed darkly, his body already turning into light. "Do you see now? I'm gonna become the ultimate masterpiece. We've got to stop him." Karasu shouted, although he was aware it was too late to prevent the explosion. "No," Tobirama thought, as he raced toward his target as fast as he could, "it's never too late." "Cower in awe," Deidara gloated. "Fear my art. For this is the C0, this is death itself. I die as I lived, with a blast." Tobirama ignored him. He ignored Haku's shouts, the infernal heat burning his skin. He focused on making hand seals, and next grabbing Deidara's face, his hands melting upon contact. A second later, the scenery vanished. Both Tobirama and his enemy left Konoha for the limbo between worlds, a place without escape. "To think this jutsu once saved me, now it's taking me to my grave." Tobirama smirked, as Deidara's body started imploding. He was strangely serene. He had already lived far too long anyway. Tobirama was slightly regretful in his last moments. While he was proud that at least a few of his students turned out alright, the Hokage truly thought he hadn't done enough. He should have mentored Danzo better, or helped the world more. In the end, Deidara was perhaps right. He and the Will of Fire might have been too old, the remnant of an era long gone. They hadn't adapted to new circumstances. It was the belief it was time to go that gave the Nadaime some measure of closure. That, and the belief Haku and so many youngsters would survive and surpass their predecessors. That's the Hokage's true path, to give your life so thousands may live. "Brothers, father, sorry it took me so long, to see you again." These were Tobirama Senju's last thoughts, before atomic fire wiped him from the face of the universe. Chibaku. After Tobirama's sacrifice and Deidara's demise, the remnants of the bomber's gang were either killed or subdued. Many had died in the conflict, and Konoha was in ruins, yet there was hope for the future. Buildings could be rebuilt, and life would flourish again. With Danzo's death, his student was promoted to Rokudaime Hokage. As the Anbu commander and one of the heroes of the city, he had the legitimacy needed. And here he was, glancing at Chibaku with a hat too heavy for him to fill. "Once, I wanted this post with all my heart, before my accident," the Anbu stated. "I gave up on it when I realized I didn't have the skills needed. It's ironic I inherited it anyway. Trust me, life loves to mess with us." Chibaku crossed his arms. "You didn't make me come to monologue, am I right, or am I right?" The new Hokage stayed silent. "I wish to thank you for saving my life and for helping defend this city. That's Tobirama you should thank more. What are you going to do now?" "Continue Danzo's work. As I told your friend, I followed Danzo, not his ideals. With his death, I don't know what to do." He lowered his head. "Sasuke is gone, as is my revenge. The responsibilities of Hokage fall on me. I am lost." "At least you've got a pretty assistant," Chibaku mused. "You and Shizune seem awfully close." "She's like a sister to me," the Hokage replied, although he seemed briefly embarrassed. "We should have switched places. She's more experienced, and I was made to take orders, not to give them." The puppeteer stayed silent, choosing his next words carefully. You know, I never believed in this will of fire bullshit, and I honestly thought Tobirama was an old man with outdated ideals, but he was right on one point. In the end, we youngsters surpass our elders. We do not have their experience or their firepower, true, but we have the ability to learn from our predecessors' mistakes and not to repeat them. He pointed a finger at the former ANBU's heart. You've got to follow your own path. Not Danzo's, or Tobirama's. They both have their flaws they refused to acknowledge because it was their life's work. You can learn from their mistakes, and create a new solution to improve both yourself and the world around you. A solution, beyond the will of fire. The Hokage betrayed a hint of excitement in his otherwise stoic voice. Chibaku took it as the sign somewhere in this cold individual, Naruto Uzumaki remained in some form. It sounds promising. You could start by reforming the academy. Brainwashing and traumatizing the young is never a good idea. Chibaku shuddered upon remembering Sasori's personal take on the birds and bees talk. And end this personality cult around the Hokage. A good friend of mine taught me people should try taking matters in their hands instead of waiting for a leader to solve issues for them. You have a point. It is difficult to look toward the future, when you are taught to idealize the past. The Hokage inhaled sharply. This Tikoku will come back. Not if we turn the table around. They've been rampaging for too long, it's time to counterattack. Chibaku extended his hand. Will you fight with us? The former Anbu glanced at the hand, then shook it. I will do my best to repay your help. Chibaku noticed his counterpart had put something in the puppeteer's hand, a ring. We opened Danzo's seal. The Bijudama had long disintegrated, but we managed to salvage Deidara's arms. Since you have lost your way back home, I thought you might find this useful. Should you need any help, my door is always open. The Anbu stayed silent an instant. Goodbye, I have the feeling we shall meet again in the near future. After leaving the new Hokage, Chibaku went on to find Haku. She had just finished placing flowers before Konoha's memorial. Tobirama's name had been graved on it. First Zabuza, now Kubaiko, why do my mentors always die while I live? I've got no answer to that, Haku. It happened, whether we like it or not. He put a hand over her shoulder. I understand how you feel. Sasori, Zabuza, our mentors were such an important element in our lives, their deaths left a hole in our heart we can never fill again. I guess we are alike in this regard. She smiled and examined him. You look much better. Repairs, my friend. That, and I've found a new way to fight. I focus on the movements, while my partner's chakra operates the weapons. Haku briefly raised an eyebrow at the partner comment, but quickly corrected her expression. I see, I am glad to reach understanding with the Biju. It is a living being too, with feelings. I'm sad it took me so long to understand that. Meh, she's been around Jinchuriki for months and she got it already, while you lived at my doorstep for more than a decade and you only got it now. Geez, you're slow. I knew you had feelings, it's just I didn't appreciate you back then. I guess it's time to work side by side instead of in spite of each other. Chibaku snorted. Where's Karasu? We've got to do something. He was trying to locate Kakuzu. The bastard fled mid-battle. I don't blame him. Honestly, if we weren't friends, I would have done the same. This Deidara was crazy powerful. I mean almost nothing we had could harm him, and he was that close of killing us all on his own. If all the leaders of Tikoku are as strong as him, then we are beyond screwed. He chuckled at Haku's astonished face. What? She scratched the back of her head and smirked. It was pretty noble of you to come back for us. I'm not used to trusting someone to watch my back. I used to focus on watching Zabuza-sama's, but it feels like it was years ago. My, that came out wrong. It's a new experience for me too, but I guess things can change for the better. They found Karasu in the hospital center, occupied watching at the Sound Nin's corpse. He barely acknowledged his friend's presence. Sorry, Chibaku said. I robbed you of your revenge. I follow the first chance, first killed policy. As long as he paid for his crimes, I don't care if it was by my hand or someone else. I would have hated you if you had let him get away, but I'm glad my girlfriend and so many can finally rest in peace. Chibaku shook his head. It's pretty sad, actually. I could easily have turned into him had Orochimaru been the one to find me. Or I could have become the psycho clown if it had been Deidara. They were products of their environment. I am not certain, Karasu replied, I don't think our mentor conditions who we are. In the end, whether or not we follow their ideals, is our choice. They made their own, but they could have easily chosen the opposite path.